Chapter 39:18. Lin Yi glanced at her indifferently and said, "I'm just teaching you a lesson. Although I've spared your life this time, I advise you to think about your own strength if you want to play any tricks in the future. If I want to kill you, it'll be as easy as blowing off dust." You! Murongjin was instantly furious, but when she thought of his strength, she could only swallow her anger and said, "Okay, I've learned my lesson." Originally, she wanted to take the opportunity to pretend to be repentant and turn over a new leaf. According to Shanghai Laner's naive and childish personality, she might have a chance to get closer to her so that she could find an opportunity to kill her in the future. However, now that she had been slapped by Lin Yi, she immediately gave up the idea. Although Shanghai Laner was childish and ridiculous, Lin Yi was not necessarily the same. If she continued to play tricks here at this time, she might really be slapped to death by Lin Yi. If that happened, she would not be able to find a grave even if she cried. Looking at Murongjin's fleeing figure, Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh. He said to Sheng Wanlan, "This woman's heart is as vicious as a snake and scorpion. I really don't know if what she did today was right or wrong. In the future, you must be careful." "Yes, I know." Shanghai Laner nodded obediently. Then, she suddenly reacted and said with her teeth and claws, "I'm your little senior sister. Even you know something, how can I, as your senior sister, not know?" "Little junior brother, what do you mean by that? Are you looking down on me?" "Aw. I don't dare, I don't dare." Lin Yi suddenly felt embarrassed. This girl really changed her face at a moment's notice. "That's more like it." Ouch! Shanghai Laner raised her fist proudly, but because of the injury on her shoulder, she was in so much pain that she even shed tears. Because her attention was focused on Murongjin just now, she did not notice the injury on her shoulder. But now, not only was the injury shocking, but the bursts of pain from it made her scalp numb. Shengwan Laner was not an ordinary lady. After all, she was an expert at the peak of the early stage of the building foundation realm, so a normal injury would not be a problem for her. However, her wound was caused by Murongjin's phantom finger. After her shoulder was hit, not only did it move like it was mincing her flesh, but there were also sharp barbs on her finger, which was extremely insidious. Even an expert at the peak of the early stage of the foundation establishment realm might not be able to endure this kind of pain, let alone Shangwan Laner, this pampered and spoiled young lady. Lin Yi's eyelids twitched. He hurriedly went forward to examine her injury and found that the wound was deep enough to see the bone. Fortunately, there were no signs of poisoning. "Let's go. Let's find a hidden place. I'll help you heal." Lin Yi picked up the dizzy little curly bear and immediately left with Shanghai Laner. After all, this place was not far from the Half-Moon Lake. If he stayed here for too long, he could not guarantee that the terrifying existence that even the ghost thing was somewhat afraid of. Would it suddenly attack him? Even if its body couldn't move, if it used its vine whip or a puppet, it might be able to attack him. He found a hole in a tree. Lin Yi then began to heal Shanghai Laner. With the ability of the art of dragon mastery, it was a piece of cake to heal the injury on her shoulder. However, the process was still extremely painful. To prevent the young lady from screaming in pain and causing unnecessary trouble, Lin Yi had to think of a way to divert her attention. The only thing he could do was to find a topic to divert her attention. "Little senior sister, I'm sure you understand the principle of cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. You had such a good opportunity just now, why did you let Murongjin go?" Lin Yi asked. This question was not purely to divert her attention. Lin Yi was indeed curious. It was reasonable for a young lady like Shangwan Lan, who had never seen blood, to not dare to kill people. However, in the situation just now, Murongjin had repaid her kindness with ingratitude, and she knew what the consequences would be if she let him go. She did not even need to do it herself. If it were any normal person, they would not be soft-hearted. Ha! She's called Murongzhen. Little junior brother, do you know her? Shanghai Laner was surprised. She even forgot the pain on her shoulder. She's a newcomer who joined Blue Cloud Pavilion halfway. Before that, she seemed to be a relative of one of the elders in Soaring Sky Pavilion, Lin Yi explained. Shanghai Laner was stunned. After a while, she reacted with an "oh" sound. I know why she wanted to kill me. She's the woman I met in Huayang residence. But I only met her once. There shouldn't be any enmity between us. She scolded me for being uneducated, but I didn't even talk back. So that's how it is. Lin Yi understood. The reason why Murongzhen was sent to Blue Cloud Pavilion as a newcomer was probably because she offended Shanghai Laner. After all, if Shanghai Laner did not mind, the others would do it for her in order to please her. Otherwise, no matter how evil Murongzhen was, she would not bite the hand that fed her to the point of killing this young lady. For a woman like her, it's probably because you didn't take her seriously that she hates you even more. In the end, it's all because of her jealousy. You let her go this time out of kindness, but I'm sure she will continue to look for opportunities to attack you in the future. Lin Yi shook his head. From his point of view, no matter how he looked at it, Shanghai Laner's decision was playing with fire. She might get herself into trouble at any time. But I still don't want to kill her. Not only her, but I don't want other people, spiritual beasts, and all living things to die because of me. Shanghai Laner paused. Her eyes were clear, because I want to be merciful. Merciful? Lin Yi was stunned. It was the first time he had heard of this term. It did not sound like it was part of normal cultivation. Grandpa said that as long as you are a merciful person, you can change your fate, so your great wish will definitely come true, so I must be merciful, Shang Wanlan said seriously, which she had never done before. Then, what is your great wish? Lin Yi asked curiously. Shanghai Laner smiled charmingly. Of course, it's to bring my father back safe and sound. Your father? What's wrong with him? Lin Yi was astonished. He had been here for quite some time now. He was very familiar with important people like the Soaring Sky Pavilion's pavilion master, Shanghai Tianhua. However, he had never heard anything about Shangwan Laner's father, the only son of Shanghai Tianhua. It was as if this person did not even exist. Logically speaking, with a powerful backer like Shangwan Tianhua, no matter how poor his cultivation talent was, he should have been able to do very well in the three great pavilions. He should have been able to make a name for himself. Chapter 39:19. According to normal logic, if Lin Yi were to move around the back mountain with a ghost-eyed golden eagle cub, not only would he be greatly slowed down, he would be easily targeted by other people and spirit beasts, and it was very likely that he would be discovered by the ghost-eyed golden eagle in the sky. The consequences would be unimaginable. However, what made Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai even more helpless was that the periphery of the back mountain was as vast as the sea. The key point was that they did not have the time to make an agreement with Lin Yi beforehand. If the two of them wanted to find Lin Yi, it would be like finding a needle in a haystack. It was easier said than done. Fortunately, the two of them were not stupid enough to only look for Lin Yi. Other than collecting the treasures that they encountered along the way, Xiao Ran also had to pay attention to the various spirit beasts that they encountered. Although Qiao Hongcai's spirit pet had been found, his spirit pet talisman was still in his hands. With Qiao Hongcai's ghost-eyed golden eagle cub in front of him, Xiao Ran's vision naturally could not be too low. Not only did he need to have strength, he also needed to have potential. Therefore, it was difficult for ordinary spirit beasts to catch his eye. Although there were as many spirit beasts in the back mountain as there were hairs on a cow, it was actually not easy to find one that fulfilled both conditions. Moreover, it had to be within the range of the low-level spirit pet talisman. Unless Xiao Ran was like Xiao Hongkai and specifically targeted the cub of some powerful spirit beasts, he would be able to meet these requirements. However, the risk involved was something that Xiao Ran could not afford with his current strength. Fortunately, Xiao Ran had always been calm and would not be too eager for quick success. Even if he did not find a suitable spirit beast for the time being, he was still not anxious or impatient. Sometimes, it must be fated, but if it is not fated, one should not force it. Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai wandered around the periphery of the back mountain just like that. However, unexpectedly, they did not encounter Lin Yi. Instead, they encountered their archenemy, Meng Tong and his gang. At this moment, the group of newcomers led by Meng Tong was on high alert. Especially Meng Tong, he was so nervous that he was drenched in cold sweat and did not dare to breathe. There was no other reason. Meng Tong was trying to tame a spirit beast. This was the perfect target that he had forced his group to spend a whole 10 days to find for him. Black-backed ape was one of the few spirit beasts that was born with the ability to use weapons. Its strength could reach the early stage of foundation establishment stage. The one that Meng Tong was targeted was a quasi-adult that had just left the protection of its parents. Its strength was at the peak late stage of heaven. For Meng Tong, this black-back stick ape was simply a pie that fell from the sky. He was afraid that there was no other spiritual pet in the world that was more suitable for him. There was only one problem at hand. Could the low-level spiritual pet talisman in his hands be able to tame this black-back stick ape? Li Zhengming stood at the top of a tree and watched coldly. Under Meng Tong's lead, the black-backed ape had been surrounded by his group. There was no way for it to escape. Moreover, it was heavily injured and did not have the ferocity it had at the beginning. With just a low-level spirit beast charm, the success rate of taming a peak late-stage heaven stage spirit beast was not high. However, if this black-backed ape had already lost its will to resist, there was a high chance that Meng Tong would succeed. Meng Tong had already started to tame it. Normally, if there were no accidents, the result would be out in the time it took to burn a stick of incense. Observing all of this, Li Zhengming could not help but feel anxious. There was no need to doubt the strength of the black-back rod ape. If it was equipped with a good rod-type weapon, it would be a piece of cake for it to defeat all spirit beasts of the same level. If Meng Tong could successfully tame it this time, he would be able to secure the first place in this round of the Spirit Beast assessment with just this black-backed ape that was at the peak late-stage heaven stage. There was no doubt about it. Of course, Li Zhengming did not want him to succeed so easily. However, there were too many people here. If he tried to sabotage it secretly, it would be easy for him to expose himself. As a key spy that Lin Yi had placed under Meng Juiguang, it would not be worth it if he exposed himself for such a small matter. However, if this continued and he was successfully tamed by Meng Tong, even Lin Yi might not be able to deal with him during the battle of the spirit beasts. After all, it was the spirit beasts that were going to battle. No matter how strong Lin Yi was, it would be useless. Just as Li Zhengming was stuck between a rock and a hard place, Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai happened to pass by. In reality, according to the original route, the two of them would not encounter Meng Tong's group. Under normal circumstances, they would only pass by. However, now that Li Zhengming was standing on the top of the tree, the situation was different. Looking down from above, a fruit that could be seen everywhere suddenly fell towards the two of them. This really shocked Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai. Their attention was immediately drawn over. As for Li Zhengming, the instigator, he pretended not to notice the two of them. He continued to stand on the top of the tree as if nothing had happened, carrying out the lookout task that Meng Tong had imposed on him. Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai were early-stage foundation building experts after all. Under normal circumstances, they might not be able to detect Meng Tong's group. However, with Li Jingming's hint, they could detect Meng Tong's group in an instant. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Newcomer Meng, you happen to be taming a pet with intelligence. Do you want me to help you? Xiao Hongkai sneered and rolled up her sleeves, rushing over. On the other side were a dozen people led by Meng Tong, but he charged forward without any scruples, not taking them seriously at all. Xiao Ran followed closely behind, but he gave Li Jingming a meaningful look. Xiao Hongkai might not be able to tell who the fruit belonged to, but it couldn't be hidden from Xiao Ran's eyes. What was Li Jingming's intention to use the fruit to lure the two of them here? Xiao Ran could not help but feel puzzled. If Murongzhen was here, he could understand it as luring the snake into the trap. After all, with the strength of Murongzhen and Meng Tong's group, it was more than enough to deal with him and Xiao Hongkai. However, there was no sign of Murongzhen at all. Wouldn't he be making things difficult for Meng Tong by luring the two of them here? While Xiao Ran was hesitating, Xiao Hongkai had already rushed in front of Meng Tong's group. Meng Tong immediately panicked and shouted at the Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers, "Hurry up and stop her. You'll be rewarded handsomely after this." It was a crucial moment for him to tame the black-back ape. He was about to succeed. If he was interrupted by Xiao Hongkai, then all his efforts would be in vain. Even the spiritual pet talisman he had used would be wasted. However, Xiao Hongcai's strength was already obvious during the newcomer challenge competition. Even Meng Tong, an early-stage foundation establishment expert, was beaten half to death by her. The Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers present were only at the Heaven stage great perfection. How could they dare to fight to the death with such a hothead? Chapter 39-20. Without waiting for Lin Yi to open his mouth to comfort her, she quickly recovered on her own, and said energetically, "So I must be merciful, and pray for Daddy to return safely. Grandpa said it himself, it's not a lie." Seeing Shanghai Laner's confident look, Lin Yi could not help but be silent. Although he was a cultivator, things like luck were illusory. With his current level, not only could he not come into contact with it, he could not even imagine it. However, temporarily not being able to come into contact with it did not mean that it did not exist. The so-called merciful might be a white lie that Shanghai Tianhua purposely made up to comfort his granddaughter, but the possibility that it really existed could not be ruled out either. This was because above the heavenly axiom, it was not only about cultivating the body, but also cultivating to become an immortal. Whether this was true or not, only Lin Yi himself had reached that level, and personally experienced it to know. After half an hour, Shanghai Laner's injuries had already recovered to their original state. Looking at the new white skin on her shoulder, she could not help but be surprised and happy. There are no scars at all, and the skin is even better than before. "Little junior brother, you're really amazing." After a pause, Shanghai Laner's eyeballs rolled, and she smiled and said fawningly, "How about, little junior brother, you help me heal the other places too? You have to be injured like just now, then you can be reborn after being injured. Aren't you afraid of pain?" Lin Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry. Indeed, everyone loved beauty, even this naive big sister was no exception. "Don't be afraid, little junior brother, you don't understand women. You have to know that women are very incredible creatures. Compared to beautiful white skin, this little bit of pain is nothing." Shanghai Laner had a righteous expression on her face. "Ah. Then when there's a chance in the future, the back of the mountain is full of danger. If you expend too much true qi, it's easy to get into danger." Lin Yi could only say perfunctorily, speechless. "If that's the case. All right then, it's a deal. You can't go back on your words when you go back. Come on, let's pinky swear." Shangguan Laner immediately grabbed Lin Yi's hand. After making the pinky swear, she did not forget to stamp it. Lin Yi helplessly shook his head and could only let her do as she pleased. He then took out a dark green crystal and handed it to her, saying, "This is a 1,000-year tree crystal. Keep it first." Wow! Shangguan Laner took the 1,000-year tree crystal and stared at it with wide eyes. Although she had come for the 1,000-year tree crystal this time, even she herself did not have much hope. After all, the danger level of the half-moon lake was second to none in the outskirts of the back of the mountain. She had witnessed the thrilling situation when Lin Yi crossed the lake previously, and it was not easy for Lin Yi to escape unscathed this time. Shanghai Laner even regretted letting Lin Yi do this. As for the 1,000-year tree crystal, she had already given up on it, because it was something that could only be found by chance. Even if Lin Yi successfully reached the giant fir tree in the center of the lake, the possibility of finding the 1,000-year tree crystal was extremely low. Especially after the unexpected crisis of Murongzhen, Shanghai Laner had completely forgotten about the 1,000-year tree crystal. She did not expect that Lin Yi would actually get it. It's so beautiful. Shanghai Laner held the 1,000-year tree crystal carefully. Her eyes were shining, and her drooling look made Lin Yi feel disgusted. It must be said that the 1,000-year tree crystal was indeed impeccable in terms of appearance. This kind of crystal-clear treasure with a mysterious aura of life was not something inanimate objects like spirit jade could compare to. It was fatally attractive to women, and Shanghai Laner was no exception. Compared to the 1,000-year tree crystal lying in Lin Yi's jade pendant space, it was far above the 1,000-year tree crystal in terms of value and function. However, its appearance was really unflattering. At first glance, it looked like a piece of charred rotten wood. After a long time, Shanghai Laner finally reluctantly put the 1,000-year tree crystal into her pouch. At the same time, she turned around and secretly took out a handkerchief to wipe the saliva at the corner of her mouth. Then, this big sister put on the dignified posture of a senior sister with a straight face, and pretended to be solemn as she said, "Little junior brother, with our friendship, I won't say thanks to you. I'll remember it all in my heart, and I'll definitely repay you in the future." "Little senior sister, you're exaggerating. This is what I should do." Lin Yi could not help laughing, but he still put on a very cooperative face. Unexpectedly, Shangguan Laner suddenly stretched out her hand and slapped him on the forehead. She said resentfully, "What should I do? Making this senior sister owe you a favor is equivalent to making my grandfather owe you a favor. I don't need to explain how precious a favor from the dignified Soaring Sky Pavilion's pavilion master is. Even in their dreams, they would want him to owe them a favor. Little junior brother, you are really stupid. Was that even possible?" Lin Yi could not help but be stunned. Looking at Shanghai Laner winking at him, he was suddenly speechless. Was this girl trying to trick her own grandfather? However, for Lin Yi, earning a favor from Shanghai Tianhua would definitely benefit him endlessly in the three great pavilions in the future. With Shanghai Tianhua's influence, even the higher-ups of Blue Cloud Pavilion would not dare to ignore him. This big sister, Shanghai Laner, had always been naive, but she was sly and cunning at times like this. Although Lin Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry at her reasoning, he was still secretly excited. This so-called favor, regardless of whether he would use it in the future, was still Shanghai Laner's kind intentions, and he could not let her down. "Now that the 1,000-year tree crystal is in our hands, little senior sister, what do you plan to do next?" Lin Yi asked. Shanghai Laner frowned and thought for a while, then patted her head and said, "It's rare for me to come to the back mountain, and it's with you, little junior brother. It's too much of a waste to go back like this. Don't you guys still have the newcomer assessment mission? I'll follow you here and have some fun. Who knows, I might even find some other forging materials. That's fine. Lin Yi nodded. He had originally planned to use the remaining time to wander around the back mountain. As long as he did not go to a particularly dangerous place like Half Moon Lake, bringing Shanghai Laner with him would not be a problem. 1,000-year tree crystal and 1,000-year tree crystal. Even if he could not find the heart-devouring exquisite grass that he wanted the most in the next few days, this trip to the back mountain was already a great profit for Lin Yi. However, while Lin Yi was relaxed and happy, his two underlings, Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai, had been worrying so much about him these days that their hair had turned white. From the first day they were forced to separate from Lin Yi, the two of them had been looking for Lin Yi. It was not only because Xiao Hongcai's ghost-eyed golden eagle hatchlings were with him, but more importantly, they were worried about Lin Yi's safety. Chapter 39-21. In just one exchange, Xiao Hongkai had easily broken through the Blue Cloud Pavilion rookie's defenses and arrived in front of Meng Tong. A bunch of trash. Meng Tong gritted his teeth in anger. Helpless, he had no choice but to personally attack. Thankfully, the spirit pet charm had already been pasted on the black-backed stick ape's forehead. All he needed to do was think of a way to stop Xiao Hongkai and prevent him from affecting the black-backed stick ape. The 1,000 kicks and cold iron palm clashed head-on, and it was difficult to determine who was superior. Although he had lost to Xiao Hongkai in the rookie challenge, strictly speaking, Meng Tong's strength was not much weaker than Xiao Hongcai's. If he only wanted to hold back Xiao Hongkai for a moment, it would be a piece of cake for him. You useless trash. Instead of taking the path to heaven, you insist on barging into hell. Today will be the day you die. Meng Tong said with a ferocious look. However, Xiao Hongkai curled his lips with a sinister smile. Rookie Meng, are you sure this is okay? You don't need to look after your spirit pet. Let me remind you out of goodwill that I'm not alone this time. Meng Tong was immediately alarmed. He had been so anxious by Xiao Hongcai's provocative charge that he had nearly forgotten that there was still Xiao Ran. He hurriedly shouted, "Quick, stop Xiao Ran. If anyone dares to do it half-heartedly, it will be a betrayal. When we return, Ninth Cousin will personally deal with him." Betraying and defecting to the enemy. This threat was much more effective than the generous reward. The rookies might not believe the generous reward that Meng Tong mentioned, but the threat was real. If they were slandered by Meng Tong as betraying and defecting to the enemy, Meng Jueguang would definitely not let them off. Now that Meng Jueguang was about to be promoted to 3rd Pavilion Master, the news had already spread. At his peak, they did not dare to offend Meng Jueguang. After all, they were all experts at the Heaven Realm, and there were many of them. Once the rookies got serious, their combined strength could not be underestimated. If it were Xiao Hongkai, who was only good at head-on combat, she might not be their match. Unfortunately, they were not facing Xiao Hongkai, but Xiao Ran. Shadow Step. If it was a matter of dodging and maneuvering within a small area, no one in the world could surpass him. With Xiao Ran's fighting style, as long as his own strength wasn't weaker than his opponent's, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage even if his opponents outnumbered him. Furthermore, his current strength was above everyone else. The Shadow Step was as swift as a deity, and it didn't even take a single breath of time. Xiao Ran had successfully penetrated the encirclement of the rookies. He strolled leisurely without a speck of dust on him. When everyone came back to their senses, Xiao Ran was already standing beside the black-back stick ape. He looked so relaxed and happy that it was a complete mess. Meng Tong immediately noticed this when he heard the exclamations of surprise from the crowd, and he roared furiously with his eyes wide open, "Xiao Ran, if you dare touch a single hair on it, I'll tear you into pieces. Chop him into pieces. Then come and try to kill me." Xiao Ran chuckled and raised his eyebrows. He then waved his hand. He tore off the spirit pet talisman that was stuck on the black-backed rod ape's forehead. With that, the black-backed rod ape quickly woke up from the trance of the divine sense hypnosis. Everything that Meng Tong had put in so much effort to do was in vain. He could only stare blankly at this scene. Meng Tong almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He had used Meng Juiguang's name to force so many people to find the black-backed rod ape. It took him so many days of effort before he finally found it. Now, he was about to succeed. He never expected that Xiao Ran would destroy it so easily. Not only did he want to kill, Meng Tong even wanted to bite someone. "I'll kill you." Meng Tong's eyes were bloodshot. He immediately chased after Xiao Ran like a madman. However, he had forgotten that there was a powerful opponent standing behind him. Bang! A cold iron palm hit Meng Tong's back and sent him flying 100 feet away, leaving a bloody arc. At the same time, Xiao Hongkai sneered, "How dare you ignore my existence and show your back to me? I really don't know where your courage and boldness comes from." Xiao Hongkai did not hold back in this cold iron palm. Meng Tong was caught off guard and did not have any defense. He took all the damage. Not only did he spit out a mouthful of blood, he probably only had 20 to 30% of his strength left. Well done. Li Jingming, who was among the newcomers, saw everything and could not help but praise them in his heart. Even with his picky eyes, he had to admit that both Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai had their own unique points. They were far from being comparable to an idiot like Meng Tong. The potential that the two of them gradually displayed was not inferior to Li Jingming's. Lin Yi was able to recruit two extraordinary subordinates the moment he arrived at Heavenly Island. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was blessed. Not only did Meng Tong fail at the last step, if Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai were a little more ruthless, he might even lose his life here. To Li Jingming, this was a good thing. The truth was indeed as Li Jingming expected. After Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai severely injured Meng Tong, they did not have the intention to stop. Instead, they joined hands and walked towards Meng Tong. Sensing the faintly discernible killing intent from the duo, the other rookies present immediately scattered. After all, they were only subordinates of Meng Juiguang. Meng Tong's life or death had nothing to do with them. On the contrary, if Meng Tong, who was Meng Juiguang's favorite, were to die, it would be a good thing for them. Furthermore, Meng Tong had always bullied them. So at this moment, no one was foolish enough to stand up against Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai for Meng Tong. To them, the most important thing was to escape as far away as possible to avoid being caught in the crossfire. Seeing the rookies scatter in all directions without any sense of loyalty, Meng Tong, who was already heavily injured, immediately spat out a large mouthful of blood. He clenched his fists in indignation. Damn it! This bunch of fucking bastards. Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai looked each other in the eye. Their eyes were filled with sharp killing intent. Although they were not people who killed, they would not show mercy at such a moment. Meng Tong and them, after the accumulation of all sorts of conflicts, had long become mortal enemies. Just like at the beginning of the rookie challenge, Meng Tong had thought of ways to get rid of the two of them. Naturally, the two of them had the same thoughts. Getting rid of Meng Tong was equivalent to cutting off one of Meng Juiguang's arms. This had an extremely important effect on Meng Juiguang, who was about to be promoted to the position of third pavilion lord. Chapter 39-22. Seeing that Xiao Ran and Murong Hongfei were getting closer, Meng Tong instantly felt as if he was being shrouded by the shadow of death. His entire body began to tremble uncontrollably. The bone-chilling, boundless fear caused his mind to go blank. Just then, Li Jingming's voice suddenly rang out from above, "Lady Murong, over here." Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai were both shocked. The rustling from the dense forest in the north was getting closer and closer. It was proof that someone was approaching them quickly. Li Jingming was not bluffing. What should we do? Xiao Hongkai turned to look at Xiao Ran, allowing him to make the decision. Although Meng Tong had been severely injured by his palm, he was not completely defenseless. Besides, no one knew what kind of power a person could unleash when they were forced into a corner. If the two of them stayed, they had absolute confidence that they could kill Meng Tong. However, if they were to waste any more time, they might invite a fatal disaster upon themselves. This was because Murongzhen's power had long been proven to be far above theirs. Let's go. Xiao Ran made up his mind. He wanted to use this great opportunity to get rid of Meng Tong as well. However, it was clearly not worth it if he and Xiao Hongkai were to be put in danger. Even if they had Meng Tong as a scapegoat, it would still be a loss if they lost either one of them. After all, they had the power. If they had the chance in the future, it would not be difficult to get rid of Meng Tong. There was no need for them to take the risk. Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai quickly retreated. A moment later, Murongzhen emerged from the dense forest with a thick murderous aura. Xiao Ran's decision was very wise. Murongzhen had just suffered a great loss in Lin Yi's hands and had almost lost her life. She was now burning with rage. If she were to bump into them now, Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai would definitely die. This was because this woman would definitely vent all her anger on them, regardless of the cost. Disregarding the consequences, he wanted to get rid of these two people as soon as possible. Seeing the two of them quickly retreat, Li Jingming sighed in admiration, resolute in advancing and retreating. This Xiao Ran is really not an ordinary person. At first glance, his reminders seemed to be guiding Murongzhen in the right direction, but in reality, there was no need for him to say anything at all. With Murongzhen's senses, he had long since sensed that something was wrong here. His true intention was to inform Xiao Ran and Xiao Luo. From Li Jingming's point of view, he did not care about the life and death of Xiao Ran and his companion. However, he cared about Lin Yi's opinion of him. If he had done nothing today and allowed Xiao Ran and Murongzhen to encounter each other, Lin Yi would definitely blame him no matter what the outcome would be. However, if he had warned Xiao Ran and Xiao Luo insisted on staying to kill Meng Tong, it would not be his responsibility. Even if he were to watch the two of them being killed by Murongzhen right in front of his eyes, Lin Yi would not say anything. Because he had already done what he had to do. At that moment, under the tree, Murongzhen looked at Meng Tong in disgust and said disdainfully, "You can't even handle two small fries. You're really useless. I really don't know why Meng Juiguang would value someone like you." "What did you say?" Meng Tong's pale face turned red when he heard what she said. Ever since Murongzhen had arrived at the welcome pavilion, Meng Tong had been drooling over her even though he had never taken advantage of her. Due to Murongzhen's constant flirting and seduction, Meng Tong was infatuated with her. However, he never thought that his goddess would. She did not even bother to hide her disdain. Normally, even if she did not like Meng Tong's embarrassing look, Murongzhen would never say something like that. However, the incident at the Half Moon Lake had made her gnash her teeth in hatred. Now that she was in a bad mood, she was not in the mood to play around with a useless person like Meng Tong. "I said you're useless. What's wrong? Do you have a problem with that?" Murongzhen's eyes flashed with a bone-chilling murderous intent. Meng Tong suddenly shuddered, only then did he wake up. The person in front of him was not like those ordinary yes-man rookies. If he made her unhappy, he would not be able to explain himself even if he was killed. "Li Jingming, get over here." Meng Tong did not dare to look Murongzhen in the eye anymore. He could only vent his anger on the soft persimmon in his eyes. Li Jingming squinted. If Murongzhen was not there, he would have killed the arrogant idiot, Meng Tong, a long time ago. After a pause, Li Jingming walked over slowly and said calmly, "What is it? Give me your spiritual pet talisman." Although Meng Tong was severely injured, he was still arrogant. He spoke like he was the boss. "Why should I?" The murderous intent in Li Jingming's eyes disappeared. Although it was only a low-grade spiritual pet talisman, to any new disciple of Clear Cloud Pavilion, this was an opportunity that could only be encountered by chance, and he, Li Jingming, was no exception. How could he possibly give it to this bastard Meng Tong? "It's because my spiritual pet talisman is useless. It's because I'm your boss. Do you have a problem with that?" Meng Tong smirked proudly. Xiao Ran had only removed the spiritual pet talisman he had stuck on the black-back stick ape's forehead. At this moment, the black-back stick ape, which had been severely injured by them, was still in the same place and had not escaped. With its current condition, it was guaranteed that it would succeed with another spiritual pet talisman. Li Jingming could not help but take a deep breath when he heard that. He glanced at Murongzhen, who was next to him. However, Murongzhen did not seem to be interested. She merely crossed her arms and watched coldly. "Damn it! If it weren't for this woman, I would have killed you today." Li Jingming took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in him. He said, "There's only one spiritual pet talisman. If I give it to you, what will happen to me?" "You?" Meng Tong raised his eyebrows and said sarcastically, "Do you have a brain? It's not like you're the only one with a spiritual pet talisman. Why don't you just snatch it from someone else? These people are cowards who are afraid of death anyway. It shouldn't be a problem for you with your strength. Snatch it from other newcomers." Li Jingming was so angry that he almost laughed. Meng Tong was really stubborn. He wanted to make Li Jingming a scapegoat no matter what. That was true. With Li Jingming's strength, it was not difficult for him to snatch a spiritual pet talisman from other newcomers. However, if he really dared to do so, Meng Jueguang would definitely settle the score with him. That was because the newcomer's loyalty was not high. If he were to do so, he would be blatantly pushing them to Lin Yi. It would be strange if Meng Jueguang would let him off easily. Chapter 39-23. Li Jingming was alarmed. He thought that the rascal had discovered a flaw, so he immediately said in a deep voice, "You can't speak nonsense. What evidence do you have?" Meng Tong laughed out loud and said smugly, "There's no need for evidence. I just need to tell ninth cousin. Do you think he will believe me or you?" Li Jingming couldn't help but choke. Although this fellow Meng Tong didn't have a brain, he was simply born with the ability to play dirty tricks. Even with Li Jingming's extraordinary endurance, he couldn't help but have the impulse to slap the other party to death. "Why? Don't tell me you dare to resist me." Seeing Li Jingming's gloomy face and the throbbing veins on his forehead, not only was Meng Tong not afraid, he even taunted him fearlessly. Among the rookies in Blue Cloud Pavilion, other than Meng Tong himself, Li Jingming was the first to side with Meng Jueguang. Furthermore, he had always been loyal and capable. Logically speaking, he should have been placed in an important position, but in fact, he was the one who had been ostracized and oppressed by Meng Tong the most. For no reason, Meng Tong hated him. Seeing this person made him unhappy from the bottom of his heart. He just wanted to trample on him, bully him, and even destroy him. Li Jingming had long sensed this malicious intent. If not for Lin Yi needing him to continue being a spy, he would have long found a chance to fall out with Meng Tong, to prevent any undue delays. After staying silent for a long time, Li Jingming withdrew the spirit pet talisman from his pocket and tossed it before Meng Tong. After that, he turned around and left without saying a word. He silently swore in his heart, "Endure it one last time, and I'll surely kill you the next time." Even if he was exposed and Meng Jueguang took revenge on him, he would not hesitate. Humph. At least he's tactful. Meng Tong looked at Li Jingming's back and sneered proudly. Without saying a word, he picked up the spirit pet talisman, gritted his teeth, and walked toward the black-backed stick ape not far away. After all, the black-backed stick ape was not a big spiritual beast that could be found anywhere. Murongzhen might not be interested in it at first glance, but what if she suddenly changed her mind? What if she wanted to steal the black-backed stick ape? Meng Tong couldn't do anything about it. Murongzhen could tell that Meng Tong was nervous and on guard. She sneered disdainfully and said, "Don't worry. Such an ugly and unattractive spiritual beast doesn't deserve to be my spiritual pet. Only trash like you would treat it as a rare commodity." Although these words were unpleasant to hear, Meng Tong felt relieved when he heard it. As long as she didn't come to snatch it, it was fine. Only creatures like women would be stupid enough to pursue the so-called beauty. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, only strength was king. When the black-backed stick ape beats up your spiritual pet, you bitch can just wait to kneel and lick my boots. Time passed in the blink of an eye. It had been a whole month since the newcomers entered the back mountain of the Welcome Pavilion. Most of the newcomers had already returned half a month ago. As for the stronger ones, they stayed in the back mountain until the last few days before finally returning. The spiritual beast assessment finally entered the final segment. One-on-one spiritual pet elimination battle. The newcomers brought their spiritual pets and gathered around the arena in their pavilions according to the distribution of the previous newcomers' challenges. As for the newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion, everyone's attention was focused on an ape spiritual pet. It was the black-backed stick ape that Meng Tong had subdued. Its strength had already reached the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage. After Meng Tong returned, he looked for Meng Jueguang's help and specially gave it a sharp black iron rod. Although the Welcome Pavilion had a rule that the newcomers were not allowed to use any weapons in the competition, it had never been said. Even the spiritual pets under them were not allowed to be equipped with weapons. This time, Meng Tong took advantage of the rule and made everyone speechless. With one hand holding onto the black iron rod, the black-backed stick ape stood there, faintly emitting a domineering aura. It was enough to make the newcomers shudder. If they were to face the black-backed stick ape one-on-one, not to mention the spiritual pets that they had subdued, even if they were to fight personally, most of the people present might not be a match for the black-backed stick ape. A spiritual beast with strong combat talent was already stronger than human cultivators of the same level. Now that it had the advantage of weapons, it was not difficult for it to challenge experts at the great perfection of Heaven stage. Compared to the domineering black-backed stick ape, the gains of the other Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers paled in comparison. As far as the eye could see, none of them were above the Heaven stage. They were not a threat to the black-backed stick ape at all. Out of the 10 rookies present, 4 of them had not even managed to subdue a spirit pet. After all, the low-grade spirit pet charms that were given to them did not have a high success rate if they were to encounter a spirit beast with a bit of strength. Why haven't the others appeared yet? Are they too ashamed to bring their spiritual pets out to see others? What a bunch of cowards. Meng Tong rested his hand on the shoulder of the black-backed stick ape and laughed unscrupulously. What a bunch of cowards. At that moment, the important figures among the Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers, apart from Meng Tong, had yet to arrive. Not only had Lin Yi and his group not appeared, but even Murongzhen and Li Jingming had yet to appear. However, even if these people had yet to arrive, the black-backed stick ape's combat power was almost invincible among the Heaven stage. Meng Tong could not wait to see the scene of it displaying its invincible might. After waiting for a while, these people finally appeared one after another. The first to appear in everyone's line of sight was Li Jingming. Hee, this kid probably doesn't have a spiritual pet and feels ashamed to come out to see others. That's why he's so late. Meng Tong looked at Li Xingming, who was alone, and sneered, taking pleasure in his misfortune. Because he had subdued the black-backed stick ape earlier, Meng Tong had already returned half a month ago. He was considered one of the earliest batch among the newcomers. However, Li Xingming, who had been tricked by him, was in a tragic situation. It was said that he had only returned yesterday, and he did not bring back any spiritual pets. Meng Tong had already expected this outcome when he snatched the other person's spiritual pet charms. In other words, he had been looking forward to this scene from the beginning. He was looking forward to seeing Li Xingming make a fool of himself in front of everyone. Putting aside the fact that Li Xingming did not have the guts to snatch the other newcomer's spiritual pet charms, even if he did, the other newcomers would have long scattered. It would be difficult for him to bump into them in the vast back mountains periphery. Even if he was lucky enough to catch one, he might not have the luck to subdue a powerful spiritual pet. Chapter 39-24. Li Xingming, where's the spirit pet that you subdued? Hurry up and bring it out for everyone to see. Don't tell me that you can't even subdue a non-rank spirit beast. You're embarrassing us. If it were me, I would have killed myself long ago. I wouldn't have the face to come out and meet people. Meng Tong jabbered on and mocked him. Li Xingming looked at him expressionlessly and ignored him. He turned around and walked to the side. However, Meng Tong did not plan on letting him go so easily. He chased after him and seized the opportunity to ridicule him. Don't be in a hurry to hide. It's indeed embarrassing not to have a spirit pet, but shouldn't you face reality? Wouldn't you be a coward if you run away like this? Isn't everyone right? That's right. The rookies echoed one after another. It was a classic example of infuriating others and laughing at others. Meng Tong's black-back ape was enviable, so he could only find a balance with Li Xingming, who was even more unlucky than them. After all, no matter what, Li Xingming was once ranked in the top 5. He was an influential figure that was above them. To be able to see him suffer a setback made them secretly happy. Facing the crowd's mockery, Li Xingming continued to ignore them and walked to the side. As for Meng Tong, he still had no intention of letting him go. It was a rare opportunity. This time, he had to trample Li Xingming into the dust and make him the laughing stock of the newcomer welcoming pavilion. However, before he could continue approaching, a bone-chilling aura suddenly came from his side. Meng Tong was shocked and hurriedly jumped to the side. You want to fight because you're embarrassed and angry. You want to play dirty with me. Do you know how to write the word death? Meng Tong thought that he had something on him, so he immediately turned hostile. He knew that Li Xingming was an expert who cultivated the Sky Frost Fist. The cold aura was a sign that he was about to fight. However, Li Xingming just glanced at him and said calmly, "Don't misunderstand. I'm not interested in fighting with you. It's just that you're too annoying and provoke my spirit pet." Spirit pet? Where did you get your spirit pet? Meng Tong's expression changed. He looked around for a while, but he couldn't find the shadow of the other party's spiritual pet. Then he reacted and said, no spiritual pet, no spiritual pet. Isn't it just shameful? Do you need to bluff? Everyone here is sensible. Is it fun to pretend to be powerful? The rest of the people. They were also baffled. They looked at Li Xingming as if he was an idiot. Li Xingming shook his head and said to himself mockingly, "It seems that there are a lot of ignorant people who haven't seen the world. I have no choice but to show myself and open their eyes, ghost tiger." As soon as he finished speaking, a ferocious tiger with strange stripes all over its body suddenly appeared beside Li Xingming. Although it was not too big and its aura was not too strong. But when they saw the king of beasts in the eyes of ordinary people suddenly appear under their noses without warning, Meng Tong and the others were really shocked. This is Ghost Tiger. The legendary Ghost Tiger with the talent of invisibility. Among the newcomers, there were still some knowledgeable people who saw through the mystery in one sentence. Ghost Tiger. It was a very rare ice spirit beast. It was said that its racial talent was invisibility. Except for a few martial arts that could see through it, few people could detect the invisible Ghost Tiger. Unless it attacked, even if it was walking next to it, they might not be able to detect the slightest difference. However, there were exceptions to everything. If it was an observant ice spirit cultivator, because of the same attribute, there was a chance that he could detect the traces of the Ghost Tiger. And Li Xingming happened to be an expert in this field. For a moment, the way everyone looked at Li Xingming changed. The ridicule and ridicule turned into envy and awe. A rare spirit beast like the Ghost Tiger could only be found by chance. If it was anyone else, even if they encountered it, they would not be able to detect it, let alone tame it. How is this possible? Where did you get the spirit pet talisman? Meng Tong's face was full of disbelief. He looked at the Ghost Tiger in a daze. I'm sorry, no comment. Li Xingming curled his lips and smiled. With a snap of his fingers, the Ghost Tiger disappeared into thin air in front of everyone's eyes. It must be the spirit pet talisman that was snatched from the hands of this bunch of trash. Meng Tong stared fiercely at the four newcomers. These four did not tame any spirit beasts. Li Xingming was lucky enough to tame the Ghost Tiger. The spirit pet talisman must be from the hands of these four idiots. A bunch of trash. What they did not know was that Li Xingming's spirit pet talisman was not snatched from these people. It was from Lin Yi's hands. During the month-long trip to the back mountain, Lin Yi did not meet Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai, who were bent on finding him. Instead, he met Li Xingming. After learning about Li Xingming's experience, Lin Yi took out his spirit pet talisman without hesitation. This really touched Li Xingming. Not only that, even Li Xingming's success in taming the Ghost Tiger was due to Lin Yi's help. Otherwise, even if he could detect the existence of the Ghost Tiger, he would not have the ability to capture it. It was not that there was no chance, but at least it would be very difficult. Among them, Lin Yi and Shengguan Laner could be said to have contributed a lot. What's there to be proud of? Even if it can become invisible, it is only in the early stage of heaven rank. It is not a match for me, the black-back ape. Meng Tong sneered. Although the Ghost Tiger's racial talent was rare, its strength was generally not too high. For example, the one that Li Xingming tamed was only in the early stage of heaven rank. It was a kind of spirit beast that could protect itself but was not aggressive enough. It doesn't matter. If I can't beat it, then I can't. I didn't tame it to play with a stick. Li Xingming's words were sarcastic. A spirit beast like the Ghost Tiger was a typical example of talent over strength. Even if its strength was not strong enough, its invisibility alone was already very useful. It was no exaggeration to say that it was a very rare strategic spirit pet. So even if it was not a match for the black-back ape, its value was far greater than that of a monkey that only knew how to play with a stick. This was something that Meng Tong himself was well aware of, and that was why he was so flustered and exasperated that he wanted to regain his face. However, Li Xingming's retort had caused him to be speechless for a long time. At that moment, a few people slowly walked over from afar, immediately attracting the attention of the newcomers. It was none other than Lin Yi and his group. Seeing the spirit pets following behind the three of them, there was an uproar. The newcomers whispered to each other and discussed. Chapter 39-25. Although it was still in the early stage of heaven stage, when it reached adulthood, it would be a powerful existence above the middle stage of foundation establishment. Its potential and talent were even far above that of Meng Tong's black-back ape. The newcomers looked at their master, Xiao Hongkai, with undisguised envy. They swallowed their saliva and secretly cursed that this lumber waste had turned over to Lin Yi's side. Not only was he ridiculously strong, but he had also subdued a ghost-eyed golden eagle cub. This was a blessing that ordinary people could not cultivate for several lifetimes. This time, even Meng Tong was completely stunned. He thought that his black-back ape was already an invincible existence. In the end, Li Jingming just came with a ghost tiger, and Xiao Hongkai immediately came with a ghost-eyed golden eagle. How could he live like this? Fortunately, although the spiritual pets of these two people had deep potential, their current strength was only in the early stage of heaven stage. They were still not a match for his black-back ape. Otherwise, Meng Tong would really be depressed to the point of vomiting blood. In addition to the ghost-eyed golden eagle, among the three of them, there was another spiritual pet next to Xiao Ran. It was a fat and strong rabbit. When it stood up, it was half the height of a person. Its pair of eyes were as red as jade, and it was captivating. This is the bewitching eye tyrant rabbit. Someone suddenly exclaimed. Hearing this name, the guys who had looked down on this fat rabbit could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. Even the way they looked at Xiao Ran was a little more envious and fearful. The bewitching eye tyrant rabbit was a very famous spiritual beast in the periphery of the back mountain. It was known as the newcomer killer. It was said that many newcomers who entered the back mountain for the first time died under their claws. The seemingly harmless and weak appearance, the strange and tricky talent ability, and the generally not weak physical strength. These three combined made the bewitching eye tyrant rabbit a genuine newcomer killer. Charm, this was the racial talent of the bewitching eye tyrant rabbit. It did not have any substantial lethality, but for anyone, it was an extremely troublesome ability. The so-called charm did not only confuse a person's eyes, but also directly confuse a person's divine sense. This was rather similar to Murongjin's phantom finger. However, it did not display layers of illusions. Instead, it triggered the target's deepest instincts. For those cultivators with weak wills, this kind of ability was simply a nightmare. Once they fell into it, they would not be able to extricate themselves. By the time he woke up, he might have already become a cold corpse. The bewitching eye tyrant rabbit's bewitching ability wasn't completely useless even against someone with a strong will. It could still have an effect, just that the target would be lost for a very short period of time. In a battle between experts, this moment of confusion was usually a fatal flaw. What was surprising was that the strength level of Xiao Ran's bewitching tyrant rabbit was the same as Li Jingming's ghost tiger and Qiao Hongcai's ghost-eyed golden eagle. They were all at the initial stage of heaven rank. Fortunately, they are no match for me, the black-back rod ape. Later, I will kill all of them one by one, and that will be the end of it. Meng Tong could only comfort himself in this way. However, when he saw Lin Yi's spiritual pet at the back, his eyes suddenly widened and were filled with disbelief. Lin Yi actually tamed a spiritual pet at the Great Perfection of Heaven stage. Great Perfection of Heaven stage. This was the strongest spiritual beast that a low-level spiritual pet talisman could tame in theory. However, this possibility was only limited to theory. In fact, the peak of the late stage of heaven stage was already the limit. If it was really used on a spiritual beast at the Great Perfection of Heaven stage, the success rate would probably be less than 30%. However, no matter how unbelievable it was, the spiritual pet following behind Lin Yi was a real Great Perfection of Heaven stage. Everyone present could see this clearly, and it was really shocking. However, although the level of Lin Yi's spiritual pet was frightening, it did not seem to be very powerful. At first glance, it was just an ordinary pet pig. However, even Xiao Hongkai and Xiao Ran, the two younger brothers, had such a powerful spiritual pet. Even if everyone secretly muttered in their hearts, they did not dare to rashly look down on Lin Yi. After all, he was the boss of those two people. His actions had always been unexpected and could not be judged by common sense. At this moment, Meng Juiguang's voice suddenly sounded behind everyone. Looking at the pig's spiritual pet behind Lin Yi, he said in surprise, "Skybolt pig? Isn't this a domestic spiritual pet that only knows how to seek treasures and not fight? Since when did the back mountain have such a thing?" The back mountain was full of danger. Although the Skybolt pig was also a rare spiritual beast, and its ability to seek treasures was unparalleled in the world, its fighting power was notoriously weak. It did not have the ability to survive alone in the back mountain. It was normal for Meng Juiguang to be puzzled. Generally speaking, because of the Skybolt pig's ability to seek treasures and its cute appearance, it was the domestic spiritual pet of the disciples of the big clans in Heaven Stage Island. It was rarely seen in the wild, not to mention the dangerous back mountain. Hearing this, Meng Tong immediately heaved a sigh of relief and said proudly, "It turns out that it is just a weak cunt with no fighting power." I was wondering what kind of luck this pretentious old man had picked up a powerful Heaven Stage consummate spiritual pet that could challenge my black-back stick ape. I didn't expect that it was just a useless snack to make up the numbers and scare people. How disappointing. These words made the other rookies standing by his side speechless. Before Meng Juiguang exposed him, Meng Tong was clearly so frightened that he did not even dare to breathe. His cowardly expression made people want to laugh. Now that he realized that the other party was not a combat-type spiritual pet, this fellow immediately became cocky again. He acted as though he was the best spiritual pet in the world. It really made people feel embarrassed. Lin Yi ignored him and turned to Xiao Ran to tease, "Is this fellow an actor? He can change his expression very quickly. It would not be difficult for him to win Best Actor." Xiao Ran could not help but laugh. Although the others present did not know what Best Actor was, they could roughly guess what it meant. They could not help but hold back their laughter. After coming back to his senses, Meng Tong's face immediately turned red. After a while, he shouted aggressively, "Only a weak cunt knows how to talk. If you have the ability, don't take the initiative to admit defeat when the spiritual pets fight. Let this stupid pig have a good fight with my black-back stick ape. How about that?" For a non-combat type spiritual beast like the Skybolt pig, even if its strength had been raised by Lin Yi to the Heaven Stage Great Perfection, it was still unknown how much of its strength it could display if it really fought. At least, it could be confirmed that this fellow was definitely not a match for the black-back stick ape. There was no doubt about that. Chapter 39-26. All right. You're a man, but when the time comes, this stupid pig will be beaten to death. You asked for it. Meng Tong laughed coldly as if his scheme had succeeded. Among all the Clear Cloud Pavilion's new disciples, the last one to arrive was Murongzhen. None of the new disciples were dissatisfied with this arrangement. After all, women always had their own privileges at times like this. Not to mention, Murongzhen was an alluring and powerful beauty. When they saw the spiritual pet fluttering around Murongzhen, everyone's eyes lit up. Even as men, they could not help but sigh at the sight of it. What a dazzling and dreamy butterfly! When it spread its wings, the size of this butterfly could be said to be astonishingly large. Its body was 3 m long, and its wings had a wingspan of 15 m. Its dazzling wings were dotted with specks of sparkling and translucent blue light. At first glance, it was like a magnificent screen that would enchant one's heart. "Butterfly Empress, show them how charming you are," Murongzhen ordered with a proud smile. As soon as she finished speaking, the giant butterfly, which she called the Butterfly Queen, immediately flew into the air. With a slight flap of its wings, blue light sprinkled down. It was dreamy and dreamy, like a fairy. Be careful, there's something wrong with these scale pollen. Lin Yi reminded her softly. Then, he brought Xiao Ran and the rest out of the range of the blue light. However, the other newcomers were not as vigilant as him. They were still immersed in the beauty of the butterfly queen, unable to extricate themselves. After a while, Meng Juiguang, who was the strongest among them, finally realized that something was wrong. He suddenly realized that his limbs were not listening to him. During the month that the newcomers were busy taming the spiritual pets, he had successfully broken through and was now a mid-stage foundation building expert. His level was far above everyone else's. As for Murongzhen's butterfly queen, although it looked dazzling and dreamy, its strength was only mid-stage heaven stage. With the disparity between them, logically speaking, it was almost impossible for it to affect Meng Juiguang. However, at this moment, Meng Juiguang's limbs were indeed numb. Even if he could barely move, it was extremely strenuous and slow. As for the other rookies who were much weaker, they could not move at all. Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and the rest could not help but look at each other when they saw how the crowd was struggling in vain. They looked at Murongzhen and the Butterfly Empress with fear. This guy really couldn't be underestimated. Murongzhen, what exactly do you want? Meng Juiguang felt that he had lost face along with the rookies under the watchful eyes of everyone, so he immediately berated him with a sullen face. Murongzhen covered her mouth and giggled after admiring the horrified expressions on the newcomers' faces. Senior brother Meng, don't worry. This is just a little joke that I'm playing with everyone. The paralysis effect will disappear automatically within 2 hours, and there won't be any side effects. Everyone, don't worry. Hearing that, the rookies all heaved a sigh of relief. However, Meng Tong said anxiously, then what do we do for the next 2 hours? Everyone can't move at all. Why are we having a spiritual pet battle? He had been looking forward to this day for a long time. He was hoping that the black-backed rod ape would go on a rampage and help him boost his morale. But now, he was paralyzed to the point where he could not even move. What was there to be proud of? Since it's a spiritual pet battle, it's not like you're the one fighting. Does it matter if you can move or not? Murongzhen looked at him mockingly. She pointed to her surroundings and said, can't you see that all of you spiritual pets have already escaped? They aren't affected, so why can't you have a spiritual pet battle? Meng Tong was stunned and he was speechless. Regardless of how strong the spiritual pets were, they had long sensed that something was amiss. Just like Lin Yi and company, they quickly retreated to the side. Only their masters were left standing on the spot in a daze. Now that they had been affected, who else could they blame but themselves for being stupid? If someone else were to tease him like that, Meng Juiguang might have taught them a good lesson. It was a way to establish his authority when he was promoted to the position of third pavilion master. However, the other party was Murongzhen. She was a capable helper that he would have to rely on in the future. Furthermore, he was her guest, so he could only turn a blind eye and pretend to be magnanimous and tolerant. Since Meng Juiguang did not say a word, the other rookies naturally did not dare to say anything. Although Meng Tong did not have much of a brain, other than drooling over Murongzhen, he was actually quite afraid of her. Hence, even when the referee arrived, everyone was still paralyzed to the point where they could not move. The spiritual pet battle began in such a strange atmosphere. As mentioned before, the final points of this spiritual beast assessment were made up of 2 parts, the spiritual beast's level and the spiritual beast's strength. The spiritual beast's level was clear at a glance, and the points could be calculated directly. As for the spiritual beast's strength, it was won by the spiritual pet's own performance through a single round of elimination. Although such a rule setting seemed fair and reasonable at first glance, strictly speaking, there were still some disadvantages and shortcomings. After all, not all spiritual pets were combat-type spiritual pets. For example, a spiritual pet like Lin Yi's Sky Thunder Pig was pure trash in terms of combat power. However, its unrivaled treasure hunting characteristic meant that its value was far beyond that of ordinary combat-type spiritual pets. Just like Li Jingming's Ghost Tiger, it was an existence with strategic value. Such a strategic spiritual pet, according to the rules of the spiritual pet battle, was almost impossible to obtain high points. This was actually a very unfair thing. However, since the higher-ups had already given such rules, even if it was not fair, there was not much to criticize. Even if one was dissatisfied, one could only hold it in. After all, this was a world where the strong were respected. So what if one was a strategic spiritual pet? If one's fist was not as hard as the other person's, then one deserved to be unlucky and cry in one's own grave. Under the supervision of the referee, the rookies went forward to draw lots to determine their opponents. Apart from Lin Yi and a few others, the others walked like zombies. Fortunately, they could still move, so they did not embarrass themselves. A1. Lin Yi looked at the number on the wooden lot and searched among the crowd. Finally, he locked onto a rookie and his lips curled into a smile. At the same time, the rookie looked in Lin Yi's direction. He held the A2 tag in his hand. This rookie was publicly recognized as the weakest, Cha Wu. Chapter 39-27. The referee glanced at the two of them and announced, A1 versus A2. Since A2 did not fight against a pet, it will be deemed as an unconditional forfeit. Therefore, A1 wins. He didn't have to do anything at all, he'd just drawn a lot and advanced to the next round, and he'd gotten 10 points for free. The newbies looked at Lin Yi enviously. He's so fucking lucky to encounter such a thing. What the fuck? Meng Tong's body stiffened and he could not help but curse. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi's level was frighteningly high, but he wasn't a match for any of the spirit pets present. One had to know that once these spirit pets became spirit pets, the pressure between them would lose its effect. Skybolt Pig was a spirit pet that didn't know how to fight. No matter how high its level was, it was still trash in the arena. He did not expect Lin Yi to draw such a good lot in the first round. With the help of the weak Cha Wu, he directly advanced. Just thinking about it made him feel suffocated. However, Meng Tong changed his mind and thought, it's better this way. It's best if I encounter him in the next round. When that happens, I'll let the black-back stick ape tear this stupid pig apart and let the pretentious leader vomit blood. Clear Cloud Pavilion had a total of 16 new disciples. Including Cha Wu, 4 of them were unable to tame a spirit pet. Therefore, according to the probability, in the first round of 8 matches, there was a certain possibility of 2 people without a spirit pet facing each other. At that time, it would be difficult to arrange the matches. Yet, no one knew if it was the judge's intention, or if it was just fate, but the first 8 matches didn't have an awkward situation where the 4 of them faced off against each other. Of the 8 matches, Lin Yi included, all 4 of them advanced directly. Lin Yi, Xiao Ran, Li Jingming, and another mid-tier newbie were the beneficiaries of the first round, which meant that Lin Yi, Xiao Ran, Li Jingming, and another mid-tier newbie. In other words, although there were 8 matches in the first round, there were only 4 that were really intense. Among these 4 matches, other than Meng Tong's black-back rod ape, which easily crushed its opponent and advanced to the next round, the other match was like Mars colliding with Earth. It was quite interesting and was the focus of the first round. The 2 opponents were Murongzhen's Butterfly Queen and Chao Hongcai's Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle. There was no need to doubt the Butterfly Queen's strength. She was in the middle stage of heaven rank and could be ranked in the top 3 among all the spiritual pets present. Moreover, it was thanks to it that everyone, including Meng Jueguang, were paralyzed. On the other hand, Xiao Hongcai's ghost-eyed golden eagle was also not a kind person. It could be considered as the one with the most potential among all the spiritual pets present. Although it was only a cub, its strength had already reached the early stage of heaven rank. Moreover, it was a natural fighting race. Its combat power was fierce and definitely not to be underestimated. It was a duel between two powerful spiritual pets. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to use it as the finale of the tournament, but no one expected that they would encounter each other in the first round. If they weren't paralyzed and unable to move, the newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion would have been exclaiming in surprise. They rubbed their palms together and prepared to enjoy this rare show. Unfortunately, it took a lot of effort for them to even turn their heads. If they wanted to watch, they could only strenuously squint their eyes. Both of them had the expression of a bitter woman. As they spoke, the two spiritual beasts, the Butterfly Queen and Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle, rose into the air one after another and were on guard against each other. They circled and flew into the air. Originally, according to the normal rules of spiritual pets, there were restrictions on the arena like the newcomers' challenge. As long as they fell out of the arena, they would be eliminated. However, the two spiritual pets in front of them were flying, so there was no such thing as falling out of the arena. Therefore, the referee adjusted the rules at the last minute. If either of them fell to the ground, they would be eliminated. Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle, let's strike first and attack with our claws. Xiao Hongcai instructed the Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle. Although the owner could not intervene in the battle between spiritual pets, they could use verbal commands to assist in the battle. After all, after a spiritual beast was subdued and became a spiritual pet, due to the excessive brainwashing of the spiritual pet talisman, its wildness and spirituality would inevitably be much weaker. If it was allowed to fight freely, it would often become stiff and clumsy. This could only be remedied by the owner's commands, helping it to exert 100% of its combat power. Under Xiao Hongcai's command, the Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle immediately launched an attack. Its figure was like lightning, and it instantly pounced on the top of the Butterfly Queen's head. Its two sharp claws mercilessly clawed down. The hardness and sharpness of an adult Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle's claws were comparable to that of a divine weapon. Even if Xiao Hongcai's cub was slightly inferior, its innate combat talent was there, so it would not be much worse. How cruel! How could you do such a cruel thing to my beautiful Butterfly Queen, such a beautiful and dreamy creature? What an unromantic and hateful fellow! Murongzhen pretended to be angry and glared at Xiao Hongcai, then chuckled, but it doesn't matter, Butterfly Queen, let's play with it. In everyone's eyes, the Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle's claw attack speed was already extremely fast. If they were in the position of the Butterfly Queen, there was no other way but to resist. However, the Butterfly Queen easily dealt with it. Butterflies had never been a tough and overbearing creature, and the Butterfly Queen was no exception. Even if it was in the middle stage of Heaven stage, it would not be a match for the Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle if it really wanted to fight head-on. But then again, it did not need to fight head-on at all. It just fluttered its wings and easily avoided the opponent's claw attack. At the same time it flapped its wings, sparkling and translucent blue light sprinkled out from its wings. The eyelids of the people below who were struggling to raise their heads suddenly twitched. Wasn't this the culprit that caused them to become like this? However, Xiao Hongcai did not panic at all. She instructed in a deep voice, use your wings to fan it back. The Ghost-Eyed Golden Eagle immediately flapped its wings fiercely, and a gust of wind blew away the sparkling and translucent blue light. As long as it did not directly touch the body, the Butterfly Queen's paralysis powder would naturally have no effect. Humph, you think you can get rid of it like this? What a fantasy! Butterfly Queen, use the blue vortex to give this stinky bird a good bath. Murongzhen snorted with contempt. As soon as he finished speaking, the paralysis powder that had been blown away by the ghost-eyed golden eagle strangely gathered back together. At the same time, the butterfly queen began to spin around the ghost-eyed golden eagle at high speed. The paralysis powder scattered from her wings became more and more. In a moment, it actually condensed into a small tornado. Chapter 39-28. The outcome has been decided. The ghost-eyed golden eagle is done for. Meng Juiguang squinted his eyes. Meng Tong and the others around him also had expressions of agreement. The tornado created by the butterfly queen might not be lethal, but in terms of numbing effect, it was absolutely unparalleled. Everyone present had experienced it firsthand. Even if the ghost-eyed golden eagle's physical resistance was much better than that of humans, it was impossible for it to escape this disaster when trapped in this kind of paralyzing powder vortex. According to the predetermined rules, once the ghost-eyed golden eagle landed on the ground, it was bound to lose after it was paralyzed. Unexpectedly, Qiao Hongkai had no intention of giving up just like that. Instead, she said with certainty, that might not be the case. You're really stubborn. I originally wanted to let you go. Since that's the case, there's no need to be courteous. Butterfly Queen, suck it dry. Murongjin ordered with a cold smile. Everyone could not help but be shocked when they heard that. Only then did they remember that the Butterfly Queen, a spiritual beast that looked beautiful, was actually a very horrifying creature. Other than the paralyzing powder on its wings, its mouth was long and narrow like a normal butterfly's, but it was extremely sharp. It was said that it could even penetrate a few inches of iron plate. What was different from a normal butterfly was that the Butterfly Queen was a true carnivorous spiritual beast. One of its favorite things to do was to insert its mouth into the target's body and suck the blood and internal organs dry. In everyone's eyes, Murongjin's instruction was already a death sentence for the ghost-eyed golden eagle. Because it was trapped by the Butterfly Queen's paralyzing powder, the ghost-eyed golden eagle would not even have the chance to struggle and escape. Following Murongjin's instruction, the blue tornado in mid-air suddenly dispersed. At the same time, two figures intertwined in mid-air and descended rapidly. Boom! After a muffled sound, it stirred up a cloud of dust that lingered for a long time. After a while, the dust gradually dispersed and everyone finally saw the current situation clearly. For a moment, everyone, including Murongjin, had their mouths wide open as if they had seen a ghost. The ghost-eyed golden eagle, who thought that it was going to die, was now clutching its opponent's torso with its claws. Its sharp claws were stained with blood. As for the Butterfly Queen, she was actually being stepped on by it. How is this possible? How could my Butterfly Queen lose? Murongjin was so shocked by the scene that she could not come back to her senses for a long time. At the same time, the referee announced, C1 against C2, because C1 fell to the ground first after the butterfly. Therefore, the C2 ghost-eyed golden eagle is declared the winner. At this moment, not only Murongjin, the rest of the people present looked at each other in bewilderment. It was clearly the Butterfly Queen who had the absolute upper hand just now. The ghost-eyed golden eagle was just a piece of meat at the side of her mouth. How did he suddenly become like this? I can't understand it. Hongkai, this ghost-eyed golden eagle is very compatible with your personality. You've really picked up a treasure this time. Lin Yi applauded with approval and appreciation. Meng Juiguang and the others could not understand, but Lin Yi saw it clearly. The ghost-eyed golden eagle was indeed in a critical situation just now and it was indeed paralyzed. However, at the same time that it was paralyzed, the ghost-eyed golden eagle used its sharp claws to clamp the Butterfly Queen's ribs on both sides so that the Butterfly Queen did not even dare to move, let alone suck its flesh and blood dry. She was forcefully grabbed by the eagle and smashed to the ground, which was why the scene in front of them turned defeat into victory. In fact, if she had not been caught by the ghost-eyed golden eagle, the butterfly queen would have won because the ghost-eyed golden eagle had been paralyzed and could not move at all. It was basically a live target. The key to victory this time was not how strong the ghost-eyed golden condor was, but its spirit. Even if it was about to die, it would still charge forward with an indomitable spirit. Just from this point alone, the blood energy of this ghost-eyed golden condor was indeed very compatible with Xiao Hongkai himself. TSK, such a good situation, but you actually made a mistake. Useless trash. Murongjin scolded with a cold face. Then, without looking at the butterfly queen on the ground, she turned around and left. This woman is really cold-blooded. Just now, she seemed to like the butterfly queen so much. Now that she lost, she immediately ignored it. She met the wrong person. Lin Yi shook his head speechlessly. Xiao Ran and the others nodded. Murongjin was a living example of what a cold-blooded person meant. Now that they thought about it, Meng Juiguang and the others were really unlucky. Now that Meng Juiguang had power and influence, Murongjin would try to please him in every possible way. However, once she lost her value, she could only wait to cry. It was already very merciful for this kind of woman not to hit them when they were down. When Xiao Hongkai went forward and carried the paralyzed ghost-eyed golden eagle away, the butterfly, which was covered in blood, finally regained its freedom. Following the scent left by Murongjin, it barely flapped its wings and disappeared from everyone's sight. With the end of the battle between the ghost-eyed golden eagle and the butterfly queen, the first round of the spiritual pet battle was finally over. However, the referee did not give these spiritual pets any time to rest. The second round of drawing lots followed. This time, the opponent that Lin Yi drew was actually Xiao Hongkai. This result made Xiao Hongkai greatly relieved. She rejoiced, fortunately, it's boss. If it was someone else, I really wouldn't be willing to give up just like that. As there was no time to rest, his ghost-eyed golden eagle was now paralyzed and unable to move. It was not realistic to want to fight with other spiritual pets, so he could only take the initiative to admit defeat. There was no other way. This was the rule set by the higher-ups. Only through continuous battles could the limits of the spiritual pet's strength be truly displayed. As for the fact that some people had a bye and some opponents were weak, it could only be said that there was no absolute fairness in this world. Many times, luck was also a part of strength. In the first round, he faced Cha Wu, who did not have a spiritual pet, and advanced without a bye. In the second round, he faced his own lackey and advanced directly. Today, Lin Yi's luck made people speechless. It was not only Meng Tong. Even the other rookies looked at the referee strangely. If this referee was not an inner sect disciple appointed by the higher-ups, they would even suspect that he had been bribed by Lin Yi. Otherwise, how could Lin Yi have such dog's hit luck? Without doing anything, he had obtained 20 points for no reason. Lin Yi's carefree manner made the other rookies extremely envious. If looks could kill, Lin Yi would already be riddled with holes. Chapter 39-29. In terms of strength, both of them were at the early stage of heaven rank. In terms of racial talents, the ghost tiger could turn invisible, while the bewitching eye tyrant rabbit could charm. They were both very troublesome and powerful talents. Moreover, both of them had a bye in the first round, so they were on the same starting line. That was indeed the case. Just like the previous battle between the ghost-eyed golden eagle and the butterfly queen, this battle also ended in a lose-lose situation. The difference was that the outcome of the previous battle was quickly decided after the first encounter, while this one was a protracted battle. The talents of both sides were extremely troublesome. neither had a good way to deal with the other. In the end, it naturally evolved into a battle of patience and stamina. In the end, Li Jingming's ghost tiger was slightly better, successfully advancing with injuries all over its body. The strong list was finally released. Lin Yi's skybolt pig, which had never been used before, Meng Tong's black-back monkey, Li Jingming's ghost tiger, and another newcomer's fire fox wolf. When the results of the third round were out, the long-awaited newcomers finally had the chance to see Lin Yi make a fool of himself. Because this time, he was going up against Li Jingming's ghost tiger. In the previous battle, the ghost tiger's strength had been fully displayed. To be honest, even the confident Meng Tong could not help but break out in a cold sweat after watching it. If it was in peak condition, even his black-back monkey might not be able to defeat Li Jingming's ghost tiger. Not only the ghost tiger, but others such as Qiao Hongcai's ghost-eyed golden eagle, Murongzhen's butterfly queen, and Xiao Rant's bewitching eye tyrant rabbit were all very troublesome existences. They could pose a sufficient threat to Meng Tong's black-back monkey. Fortunately, these troublesome fellows had killed each other in advance. From this point of view, Meng Tong's luck was quite good. Even if it could not be compared to Lin Yi's amazing luck of consecutive draws, it was not far from it. Lin Yi's luck had finally run out this time. Even though Li Jingming's ghost tiger had previously fought and both sides were injured, it still wanted to oppress his weak skybolt pig. That would still be a piece of cake. The third round of spiritual pet battle started with Meng Tong's black-back monkey once again oppressing his opponent. Then, everyone, including Meng Juiguang, was waiting for Lin Yi to make a fool of himself. Li Jingming wasn't a piece of trash like Chao Wu, who didn't even have a soul pet, and he wasn't Lin Yi's follower. As far as everyone knew, Li Jingming wouldn't let Lin Yi level up for no reason. Everyone was looking forward to it. Lin Yi's skybolt pig finally stepped on the arena for the first time. Looking at this honest fellow's silly appearance, Meng Juiguang, Meng Tong, and the others could not help but raise their eyebrows. Such a fellow with no combat power had actually made it all the way to the semi-finals. How could such a thing be justified? Fortunately, when they saw Li Jingming's ghost tiger step on the arena again, everyone immediately cheered and danced. This time, they could finally find the balance in their hearts. A stupid pig would always be a stupid pig. Even if it had a frightening level of heaven stage great perfection, it still could not change its nature as a trash. In front of Ghost Tiger, it was just a piece of trash that could not resist at all. This was the beautiful wish that Meng Juiguang and the others had. They were waiting for the next part of the plot. However, just when the referee announced the start of the fight and the show was about to start, something suddenly happened on the arena. Everyone was directly dumbfounded. The majestic ghost tiger actually softened at the knees in front of the harmless skybolt pig. It directly knelt down in front of everyone. What the fuck? Meng Juiguang and the others instantly went crazy with anger. What the fuck is going on? With such a turn of events, even the referee was stunned. After a while, he finally reacted and went on the arena to check Ghost Tiger's breath. With a face that did not know whether to laugh or cry, he spread out his hands and said, "Ghost Tiger is in a coma due to his heavy injuries. Hence, the winner of this fight is Skybolt Pig." When the referee said that, Meng Juiguang and the others were directly dumbfounded and could not speak for a long time. In the first round, Chao Wu had a bye. In the second round, he faced Xiao Hongcai, but she took the initiative to admit defeat. Now that he finally faced Li Jingming, in the end, Ghost Tiger directly suffered heavy injuries and fell into a coma. Could this fellow Lin Yi be the legendary son of luck? If not, how could a person's luck be so strange? Forcefully allowing a stupid pig without any combat power to win 3 rounds in a row and enter the finals. Junior brother Lin, your luck really leaves me speechless. I really have to give it to you. Even the bitter senior brother had a face of disbelief. Everything that happened today was as if it was made up in advance. Even if he saw it with his own eyes, it still felt like it was fake. Lin Yi smiled faintly and did not reply. If the first 2 rounds were indeed due to luck, then in the 3rd round, Li Jingming's ghost tiger fainting was not purely due to luck. Lin Yi could 100% guarantee that this was the order that Li Jingming secretly gave to Ghost Tiger. Although in the previous round, Ghost Tiger and Bewitching Eye Tyrant Rabbit did indeed have a hard time, with Ghost Tiger's strong physique, as long as it did not collapse at that time, there was no possibility of it losing without a fight. This was Li Jingming deliberately giving in to Lin Yi. With his current position as an undercover agent, he could not openly admit defeat like Qiao Hongkai. He could only use this method that no one could find fault with and force him to admit defeat. I really didn't expect that a pretentious leader like you deserved to be struck by lightning. I don't know how much dog shit you ate to have such dog shit luck. Meng Tong sneered with a ferocious expression. But it doesn't matter. Your dog shit luck ends here. Just like what I said before, let my black back stick ape personally tear that stupid pig of yours to pieces. Just wait to vomit blood. Hee hee, how would you know if you don't try? Maybe later you will find out that you are the idiot who swallowed dog shit. Lin Yi smiled indifferently and then signaled Skybolt Pig to go on stage. Squeak, squeak. Skybolt Pig snorted and then jumped into the ring again. His talent did not include fighting, but for Lin Yi, he was still willing to fight with all his strength. At the same time, the black-back stick ape also slowly walked into the ring with a strong and domineering aura under Meng Tong's signal. Bang! The black iron rod was casually propped on the ground, and a few cracks the width of a finger appeared on the hard stone floor. The black-back stick ape's strength was obvious. Chapter 39:30. Hearing that, the black-backed stick ape snorted and made a very human-like gesture to Tianlei Pig, which was to slit its neck. Everyone in the audience smiled knowingly. Although the challenge had reached this stage and had nothing to do with them, they still wanted to see Tianlei Pig die and Lin Yi suffer. After all, Meng Tong won in the end because of the powerful strength of the black-backed stick ape, so they had nothing to say. However, Lin Yi, the pretentious leader, really couldn't stand it anymore. He got to this stage purely because of incomprehensible luck. If he could get out of this stage unscathed, they would be envious to death. As the saying goes, comparisons are odious. It was okay to be strong, but how could they feel satisfied with the fact that he was so lucky all the way? If they were in Lin Yi's position, they would definitely quit while they were ahead. Anyway, they had already earned 30 points for nothing. If they took the initiative to admit defeat, at least they could get out of this stage unscathed. They wouldn't be so stupid as to let Tianlei Pig die on the stage. But then again, Lin Yi was recognized as the strongest newcomer after all. Even Murong Zhen, who was at the peak of the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm, was no match for him. Since he had made an appointment with Meng Tong in advance, he could only bite the bullet and accept the challenge. Otherwise, he would lose face in public. From this point of view, Lin Yi, the pretentious leader, was really cold-blooded. For the sake of his own reputation, he didn't hesitate to let his pet die for no reason. Squeak! Squeak! In the face of the black-backed stick ape's provocation, Tianlei Pig was obviously a little scared, but he still bit the bullet and responded. However, his cry was really not intimidating. Instead, it seemed even more weak and pitiful, which made people laugh. The black-backed stick ape had the same contemptuous expression on its face as Meng Tong's. It clenched its fists so hard that they made cracking sounds, and walked unscrupulously toward Tianlei Pig step by step. As for the black iron rod, it was stuck vertically on the floor behind it. Meng Tong's order was for it to tear apart the skybolt pig, so it naturally didn't need to use the black iron rod. The black-backed rod ape was not only skilled in using rods, but it was also rumored that it possessed boundless arm strength. It could tear tigers and leopards apart with its bare hands. Tearing apart a heavenly lightning pig with its bare hands was nothing difficult for it. Looking at the ferocious and bloodthirsty expression on the black-backed rod ape's face, even the audience, who were waiting to watch a good show, could not help but shiver. This fellow was truly savage. At this moment, Lin Yi suddenly said, "Hey, monkey on the stage, I advise you not to underestimate your opponent. Otherwise, you won't be able to rest in peace." The black-backed stick ape was stunned for a moment. It glanced at Lin Yi mockingly and continued to walk arrogantly toward the skybolt pig. Meng Tong sneered. "Pretentious old man, you're only bluffing when you're about to die. Do you think it'll work? It's useless to say anything now. Just wait and see that stupid pig of yours get torn in half. That scene will definitely be very beautiful. It will leave a deep impression on you for the rest of your life." Wahahaha. Deep impression. Lin Yi smiled playfully and shook his head. "I don't think so. I've killed many people, but not many of them can leave a deep impression on me. It's the same for my spirit pet. It's also very forgetful. Killing a monkey is not a big deal to it. It won't remember." "Ah, you have a sharp tongue." Meng Tong choked. He then gritted his teeth and instructed, "Black-backed rod ape. Hurry up and do it. When that stupid pig is torn into pieces, I want to see if you can still be so stubborn." As soon as he finished speaking, the black-backed rod ape suddenly sped up and turned into a black shadow that pounced toward the skybolt pig. In terms of strength, speed, and agility, the black-backed rod ape was one of the best. It was considered a rare fighting race among the many spirit beasts. It was no wonder that Meng Tong treated it like a treasure and was so confident in it. This monkey's strength was not just for show. In the blink of an eye, the black-backed rod ape had already grabbed the skybolt pig's two chubby front hooves. In front of it, the skybolt pig was only at the full circle of the heaven stage, but it did not even have the chance to struggle. Everyone's hearts were in their throats. From the looks of it, the skybolt pig was going to be torn into half. "Tear it apart. Tear it apart." Meng Tong laughed maniacally. He was so proud of himself that he almost went up to the stage to give a demonstration. At this moment, something strange happened. Puff! Blood suddenly splashed onto Skybolt Pig's head. Everyone present, including Meng Juiguang, instantly turned sluggish. Meng Tong also spurted out a mouthful of blood, unable to catch his breath, and almost fainted on the spot. The Skybolt Pig was not torn into half. Instead, the ferocious black-backed rod ape inexplicably spurted out blood from all 7 orifices. Before it fell down, the scarlet blood splashed onto half of the stage. The scene was too horrible to look at. Silence. Silence. The entire place was dead silent. "Senior, you're a little too ruthless this time." Lin Yi secretly used his divine sense to communicate with the ghost. This time, the tragic ending of the black-backed rod ape was the ghost's doing. Just as everyone had expected, the Skybolt Pig was a non-combat spiritual pet used for treasure hunting. Even if it was at the Heaven Stage Great Completion, it would not be a match for the black-backed rod ape no matter how hard it struggled. Therefore, Lin Yi secretly called the ghost to help. Lin Yi initially thought that as an elder of the spiritual beast clan, even if the ghost agreed to help, it would at most scare the black-backed rod ape and would not really kill it. He did not expect that the ghost would directly use its divine sense to shock the black-backed rod ape to death. It was really unexpected. "I'm only doing this to free it." Compared to being controlled by this scumbag as a puppet, it's better to die, isn't it? The ghostly thing chuckled indifferently. Similarly, you human cultivators kill each other much more horrifying than this. Naturally, there are wars among the spirit beasts as well. Do you think any random spirit beast is on my side? According to your thinking, you and Meng Tong should shake hands and make peace. Lin Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry when he heard that. In the eyes of a spiritual beast like you, it was a release, but perhaps the black-backed rod ape would rather continue to be Meng Tong's puppet spiritual pet and continue to live like this. At the end of the day, the ghost could not stand these so-called spiritual pets, especially these spiritual pets that were forcibly subdued by people using spiritual pet talismans. In the eyes of a big boss of the spiritual beast clan, these brainwashed spiritual pets were probably the shame of the spiritual beast clan. Their lives were worse than death, so it was better to let them die early to free themselves. Chapter 39-31. The black-back stick ape, who was at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank, was actually unable to defeat a mere skybolt pig, and was even killed in an instant. What kind of strange situation was this? Even if this skybolt pig was at the perfect stage of heaven rank, it was not born to be a combat-type spirit beast, so what was the point of having a higher level? It couldn't be that a higher-level spirit beast could develop other powerful racial talents, right? If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have definitely thought that it was nonsense. But now that the truth was in front of them, they had no choice but to believe it. The black-back stick ape was indeed killed by the skybolt pig, and even its owner, Meng Tong, vomited blood and was seriously injured. This couldn't be faked. I've already said that underestimating the enemy is a big taboo. Now that he died with grievances, who can he blame? Lin Yi raised his eyelids indifferently, then looked at the judge and said, "Mr. Judge, why haven't you announced the verdict yet? Is there any doubt?" The judge then came back to his senses, cleared his throat and said in a deep voice, "The black-back stick ape is dead, so the winner of this duel is decided by the skybolt pig." Although they didn't understand how the skybolt pig killed the black-back stick ape, the result was there. The skybolt pig won. This was an indisputable fact. If anyone had any opinions about this, it could only be said that the person was not knowledgeable enough and had not seen the world. The world was big, and there were all kinds of strange things. Who said that the skybolt pig couldn't kill the black-back stick ape? As long as the opportunity was right, there were even precedents of mortals killing cultivators. The battle between the spirit beasts came to an end under the dazed gazes of Meng Jueguang and the others. Without a doubt, Lin Yi had the last laugh. Meng Tong, who had been extremely complacent and arrogant before, had not only lost the black-backed rod ape, but he himself had also suffered a backlash from the death of his spiritual pet. His divine sense had been severely injured, and he would probably be bedridden for at least half a month. When everyone finally came back to their senses, they looked at the skybolt pig again. Their disdain had turned into fear and even fear. The previous 3 rounds of advancement were all luck, so it was reasonable for them to look down on skybolt pig. However, this last round was a true demonstration of his strength. Even the black-backed stick ape was easily defeated. This seemingly stupid and weak skybolt pig was just like his master, Lin Yi. Both of them hid their strength well. Most of the newcomers were at the great perfection of the heaven realm, but they might not be the black-backed ape's opponent. Since Skybolt Pig was able to kill the black-backed rod ape in a second, it meant that Skybolt Pig could also kill them in a second. Most importantly, they did not even understand what Skybolt Pig had done. Such terrifying strength was enough to make one shudder in fear. The 5th segment of the newcomer assessment, the Spiritual Beast Assessment, had come to an end. Among all the newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion, the one with the highest score was naturally Lin Yi. This was because he had once again obtained full marks in theory for this segment. The Sky Thunder Pig was a heaven-rank great circle. Therefore, the Spiritual Beast ranking point was 25 points. The Spiritual Beast strength point was 40 points for winning 4 rounds in a row, which added up to 65 points. When the first 5 segments were added together, Lin Yi's newcomer assessment points had reached a shocking 281 points, leaving all the other newcomers in the dust. After him was Qiao Hongcai's 181 points. She was in second place. Meng Tong, on the other hand, had 180 points, 1 point behind Qiao Hongcai in third place. As for fourth and fifth place, they were occupied by Xiao Ran and Li Jingming respectively. The title of Clear Cloud Pavilion's top 5 newcomers was not an undeserved reputation. At least among the Clear Cloud Pavilion's newcomers, there was no one who could shake their position. The gap between them and the other newcomers would only grow bigger and bigger, not smaller and smaller. Even Murongzhen, an expert at the peak of the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm, could not make it into the top 5 even with her strength. Although she joined halfway and did not place much importance on points, this result was enough to explain the problem. Although there was still one segment left in the newcomer assessment, the situation was very clear now that things had developed to this point. Putting Murongzhen aside, among all the newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion, only these 5 people had the strength to stand out after entering the Blue Cloud Pavilion in the future. Among them, Lin Yi, as the well-deserved number 1 newcomer, would definitely receive the most attention. Although Meng Juiguang was already at the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm, and was about to be promoted to the position of the 3rd Pavilion Master, he was like the sun in the sky in the eyes of the newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion, but even he could not suppress Lin Yi's rise. Now, Lin Yi's name had even spread to the inner circle of the Blue Cloud Pavilion, attracting the attention of many of the higher-ups in the Blue Cloud Pavilion. A newcomer with limitless potential like him, for the weak Blue Cloud Pavilion, was like a treasure that fell from the sky. After all, there was already Zhang Liju before them, and they couldn't help but let their imaginations run wild. Both of them came from the common world, both of them were outstanding in the welcoming pavilion, and there were even rumors that Lin Yi was a refiner just like Zhang Liju. The two of them were too similar, and it made people unconsciously think the same thing. Would Lin Yi become the next Zhang Liju? Back then, Zhang Liju alone was enough to make the weak Blue Cloud Pavilion rise again. At its peak, it was not only on par with the other 2 pavilions, but it was even showing signs of becoming the leader of the 3 great pavilions. This situation only changed after Zhang Liju went to Nakajima, and without a successor, Blue Cloud Pavilion slowly fell back to its current state. If there was another legendary person like Zhang Liju, it would be a great thing for Blue Cloud Pavilion. Of course, Blue Cloud Pavilion wasn't completely united. Some people were happy, while others weren't so happy. When he heard from Ku Bai Shixiang that he had attracted the attention of the higher-ups in Blue Cloud Pavilion, Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Even if Ku Bai Shixiang didn't say it directly, it wasn't hard for him to guess that there was a reason why he could attract the attention of the higher-ups. There had to be someone helping him in the dark. And this person didn't need to think too much. It had to be the previous 3rd Pavilion Master, Lu Bianren, who had been pushed out of the welcoming pavilion. Lu Bianren's intentions were good. Right now, Lin Yi was being suppressed by Meng Juiguang and Su Lingchong. Their methods were getting more and more aggressive, and it was hard to say when they would take the risk. So, the only way to make Lin Yi's potential was to attract the attention of the higher-ups in advance. Only then would these people be a little afraid, and at least they wouldn't dare to use shameless methods like assassinations. Chapter 39-32. Now that the 2 heart-devouring exquisite grasses in the space of the jade pendant had matured and everything was ready, he could finally start refining the foundation building pill again. Lin Yi had been looking forward to this day for a long time. Since he got the 2 heart-devouring exquisite grasses, more than 3 months had passed. Entering the space of the jade pendant and adjusting his state, Lin Yi checked the 2 heart-devouring exquisite grasses and the other alchemy materials he had prepared in advance. He was already familiar with this process. After a few hours, Lin Yi had the freshly refined foundation building pill in his hands. The quality was the same as always, and there were 3 of them. Originally, the 2 heart-devouring exquisite grasses in Lin Yi's hands belonged to the congenital deficiency of cultivating in batches. No matter how good the quality of the other auxiliary materials was, it was already the limit to make 2 foundation building pills. It was impossible to make 1 more. The reason why he could make 3 foundation building pills was ultimately because of the heaven-defying effect of the space of the jade pendant. The unique environment completely made up for the damaged vitality caused by the congenital deficiency, which was why there was such a pleasant surprise. Looking at the 3 foundation building pills in his hands, Lin Yi secretly clenched his fists. 3 months of hard work, indeed, did not go to waste. Without any hesitation, Lin Yi directly adjusted his state and began to take the foundation building pill. According to his previous experience, 1 foundation building pill was enough to reach the barrier. Then, he could directly take the foundation building barrier breaking pill, which was enough to guarantee a successful breakthrough. Not only were 3 foundation building pills sufficient, but he could also use 2 more in the future. However, to Lin Yi's surprise, this time, after taking 2 foundation building pills, he still could not reach the barrier. Lin Yi could not help but wonder if the foundation building pill had lost its effect on him. It was not until he took the 3rd foundation building pill that he finally reached the barrier between the peak of the early stage and the middle stage of the foundation building pill. It was a solid barrier that was close to becoming solid. With regards to this result, Lin Yi was speechless and could only choose to silently accept it. No wonder when he was chatting with senior brother Ku Bai and Lu Bianren. It was said that the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment was a hurdle that all cultivators had to face. Many talented cultivators had been doing very well in the past. The halo of genius above their heads was dazzling, and they could even break through to the foundation building realm effortlessly. However, there was a large group of people who were stuck at the peak of the early stage of the foundation building realm. They hadn't made any progress for dozens of years, and their genius had been ground into mediocrity. It was no wonder that Meng Juiguang, the eldest senior brother, did not know Su Lingchong. He hadn't broken through this barrier after such a long time. This was not an isolated case, but a stage that all cultivators had to go through. Being stuck at the peak of the early stage of the foundation establishment realm for decades or even hundreds of years was a very common thing in the world of cultivation. In fact, if one did not have a large amount of cultivation resources or a special opportunity, many of them were still experts at the peak of the early foundation establishment stage until they died. There was a rumor in the streets that the peak of the foundation building realm was a threshold that couldn't be passed. Every time one passed a threshold, it was equivalent to a carp leaping through the dragon's gate. After one was reborn, one's strength would surely obtain explosive growth. From the peak of the early stage of the foundation establishment realm to the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. Most people needed decades or even hundreds of years to be able to cross this threshold. It was no wonder that Lin Yi had consumed 3 supreme-grade foundation building pills to barely touch the barrier. And this even included the results of Lin Yi's hard work in the past few months. However, although the supreme-grade foundation building pills were very precious, they were able to make up for the years of bitter cultivation of others who didn't consume pills. This was definitely worth it. One must know that the process of consuming 3 supreme-grade foundation building pills consecutively was a process that even with Lin Yi's mental fortitude. It was as if he was gambling on a card table. Fortunately, the final result was still satisfactory and didn't disappoint. After consuming the supreme-grade foundation building barrier-breaking pill, Lin Yi's next step was to break through to the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm in one go. While Lin Yi was concentrating on his breakthrough in seclusion, his opponents were not idle. Among them, the one who made the biggest move was Meng Tong. This was because Meng Jueguang had finally decided to let him take the meridian heart-shattering pill that he had prepared beforehand. Because the black-backed rod ape had been killed in seconds, Meng Tong was currently suffering from the backlash of his divine sense. It was not suitable for him to take such a domineering pill like the meridian heart-shattering pill. Meng Jueguang was also well aware of this, but he had no other choice. He was running out of time. The last round of the assessment was set to take place in 10 days. According to the rules announced in advance, this was the decisive round that could truly determine the outcome. For all the newcomers who participated in the assessment, success or failure would depend on this move. With Meng Tong's current strength in the early stage of the foundation establishment realm, it was obvious that he was no match for Lin Yi. Even Murongzhen, who was at the peak of the early stage of the foundation establishment realm, would not be able to do anything to Lin Yi. As mentioned before, with Lu Bianren's secret operation, the few higher-ups of the Blue Cloud Pavilion had now begun to pay attention to Lin Yi's brilliance. Although Meng Jueguang was proud of his success, he was already feeling a lot of pressure. If he did not think of a way to suppress Lin Yi as soon as possible, not only would it be difficult to explain to Su Lingchong, but it would also be extremely difficult for Meng Jueguang to suppress Lin Yi in the future. As the third pavilion master, he could not suppress a newcomer. That was not all. What he was most afraid of was that when he became the third pavilion master, Lin Yi would become the senior brother in charge. No matter who he forced to become the senior brother, it would have nothing to do with him as the third pavilion master. If his two subordinates did not listen to him, he would be even more miserable than Lu Bianren. Therefore, in Meng Jueguang's opinion, the final round of the assessment was his last chance. Under the pressure, he could only place all his bets on Meng Tong. In fact, if he was not forced to do so, Meng Jueguang did not plan to do so. After all, it would be too cruel to the ignorant Meng Tong. Moreover, after so many things, he had already seen through Meng Tong. This guy was unable to accomplish anything and was good at spoiling things. He was not someone who could be entrusted with important matters. In comparison, the other two subordinates he had, Murongzhen and Li Jingming, were much more reliable than Meng Tong. Unfortunately, even though Murongzhen was willing to sleep with him, she did not have the right position. She was only willing to be his ally, not his subordinate. Meng Jueguang was using her, but at the same time, he had to keep his guard up. He could not completely trust her. Chapter 39-33. Up until now, Meng Jueguang still hadn't discovered that Li Jingming had already succeeded in breaking through to the foundation establishment stage. It could be seen how good Li Jingming was at hiding his strength. His ability to hide his strength was almost on par with his big brother Lin Yi. Therefore, even if he knew that it was unreliable, Meng Jueguang could only bite the bullet and put all his chips on Meng Tong. As long as this guy could be reliable at the critical moment, the ancestors of the Meng family would burn incense. There were only 10 days left until the final assessment. Meng Jueguang couldn't wait for Meng Tong to fully recover, so he could only bite the bullet and trick Meng Tong. This was very risky, but he had no other choice. Looking at the blood-red pill in Meng Jueguang's hand, Meng Tong couldn't help but drool. Ever since he knew about the meridian heart-shattering pill, he had been waiting for this day for too long. Unfortunately, Meng Jueguang had always asked him to hold it in. Today, he could finally get what he wanted. However, Meng Jueguang didn't give it to him so easily. Instead, he asked, "Meng Tong, how have I treated you during this time?" Meng Tong was stunned, and then he hurriedly flattered, "Very good." Ninth cousin, you have treated me with great kindness. If you have any orders, I will not hesitate to sacrifice my life. That's good. No matter what happens in the future, you just have to remember one thing. We are both grasshoppers on the same line. No matter what I do, I will do it for you. I will never cheat or harm you. You must keep this in mind, understand? Meng Jueguang said with deep meaning. Of course, how can I not know how ninth cousin Tong treats me? Ninth cousin Tong, you can rest assured that I, Meng Tong, am not that kind of ungrateful guy. Meng Tong didn't understand, so he continued to pat his chest and promised. He thought that Meng Jueguang was afraid that he would turn his back on him after taking the Meridian Heart-Shattering Pill and become stronger. Meng Jueguang nodded in satisfaction before handing the Meridian Heart-Shattering Pill to Meng Tong. He paused and said, "You've heard about the effects of this pill from young Master Su. With your current strength in the early stage of the Foundation Establishment Realm, advancing to the peak of the early stage of the Foundation Establishment Realm is a sure thing. There is no doubt about this. However, everything has its pros and cons. As the saying goes, medicine is 30% poisonous. You should know what a powerful medicinal effect represents." I know what to do. Meng Tong nodded repeatedly. In fact, he didn't even know a fart. He didn't understand the deeper meaning of Meng Jueguang's words at all. He just wanted to take the Meridian Heart-Shattering Pill as soon as possible to improve his strength. If that's the case, then I won't say anything more. There's no time to lose. You should take this Meridian Heart-Shattering Pill as soon as possible after you adjust it a little. Meng Jueguang narrowed his eyes. Meng Jueguang deliberately didn't point it out. After all, no matter how stupid Meng Tong was, if he knew the side effects of the Meridian Heart-Shattering Pill, he probably wouldn't dare to take it again. He probably wouldn't dare to use it again. This was something that could ruin his entire life. Which normal person would dare to use his entire life as a bargaining chip? Anyway, Meng Jueguang had already said so much in advance, and he had done his duty. As for Meng Tong's failure to understand the deeper meaning of these words, he could only blame his own stupidity, not Meng Jueguang's head. Yes. Take care, ninth cousin. Meng Tong couldn't wait to start. Although Meng Jueguang had told him several times in recent months, he didn't take it seriously. The Meridian Heart-Shattering Pill's effect was overbearing, and he had to be fully prepared before taking it. However, he didn't take it to heart. Anyway, as long as he could directly advance one level, everything else was fleeting. Meng Jueguang nodded. When he walked to the door, he suddenly stopped and turned back. Meng Tong, when you take the Meridian Heart-Shattering Pill later, the process will be very painful. If you can't endure it, you'll be finished. This is not an alarmist talk. It was rare to see Meng Jueguang so serious. Although Meng Tong was impatient, he still heard something between the lines. He asked cautiously, "What should I do?" No matter how arrogant he was, Meng Tong could at least clearly recognize that willpower was never his strong point. If what Meng Jueguang said was true, he might not be able to bear it. If you really can't endure it, you only need to remember that hatred can make people endure all kinds of pain and suffering. You only need to know who is the enemy you want to kill the most, and put all the pain on him. You must survive and return it to him 100 times or 1,000 times in the future. That's enough. Meng Jueguang left these words and turned to leave. Hatred. Meng Tong listened thoughtfully, and then a trace of ferocity flashed in his eyes. Who is the enemy I want to kill the most? Of course, it's that bastard Lin Yi. Speaking of enemies, Meng Tong had always been arrogant, so he had many enemies. When he was in his hometown, he was a local tyrant and had many conflicts with people. However, ever since he came to the Welcome Pavilion, he had been completely separated from the outside world. Under Meng Juiguang's care, most newcomers would only dare to be angry with him, but not dare to say anything. Even if Li Xingming was oppressed by him in every possible way, he would never make a sound. There was only one enemy left, and that was naturally Lin Yi. After all, wasn't the fundamental purpose of taking the Meridian heart-shattering pill to defeat Lin Yi, the pretentious leader? Wait for your death, Lin Yi. Meng Tong spat fiercely and stared greedily at the Meridian heart-shattering pill in his hand. After a while, he suddenly stuffed it into his mouth. There were only 10 days left until the last round of assessment. How long would it take for the Meridian heart-shattering pill to take effect? How long would it take for him to stabilize his strength and realm? These were all unknown. Although Meng Tong's actions were somewhat hasty, it was also the situation that Meng Juiguang hoped to see. However, what Meng Tong did not expect was that the moment the Meridian heart-shattering pill entered his stomach, the pain that Meng Juiguang mentioned suddenly came without warning. It was the legendary heart-shattering pain. Ah! A heart-wrenching scream instantly resounded in the mountains. Almost all the newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion were startled out of their caves and looked at each other. Before they could figure out what was going on, another scream was heard. This time, everyone understood that the scream came from Meng Tong's fourth cave at the foot of the mountain. What's going on? Even killing a pig doesn't make such a loud noise, right? The newcomers could not help but have strange expressions. Although the density of the spiritual energy in the caves at the foot of the mountain was not high, it was built by the 3 pavilions after all. The facilities were absolutely first class, and because of the cave's restrictions, the soundproofing was excellent. Chapter 39-34. This was the first time in history that Meng Tong's cave dwelling had such a penetrating howl. It was no wonder that everyone was so surprised. What kind of pain did he have to suffer for him to howl in such an earth-shattering manner? What the hell is Meng Tong doing? Could it be that Meng Juiguang is torturing him inside? He's screaming so miserably, this is too abnormal. Xiao Hongkai ridiculed, taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. Xiao Ran speculated with a face full of doubt, could it be that he's practicing some strange evil martial arts? From what I know, only a few external martial arts techniques would suffer such devastation. But Meng Tong isn't an external martial arts expert, right? Lin Yi smiled faintly and said thoughtfully, he probably ate something that he can't digest. It doesn't matter, if he wants to scream then let him scream. Lin Yi could more or less guess what Meng Tong was doing now. After all, he had Li Xingming as a spy. Moreover, during the month he was at the back mountain outskirts, he had already heard about the existence of the Meridian heart-shattering pill from Shanghai Laner, so it wasn't hard to connect the dots. If it was someone else, they would more or less be a little anxious at this time. The more evil a power was, the more likely it was to become stronger in a short period of time. This kind of thing was not uncommon in the cultivation world, but unfortunately, Lin Yi didn't care about it at all. It didn't matter if Meng Tong became stronger or crippled, Lin Yi didn't care. He only cared about one thing at the moment, and that was to stabilize his foundation establishment mid-stage as soon as possible. He needed to fully grasp his newfound strength. Other than that, everything else didn't matter. 10 days later, all the newcomers gathered in the Welcome Pavilion to prepare for the last round of the newcomer assessment. It was also the most important round that determined their future. Usually, in these kinds of occasions, Meng Tong, who had always been arrogant, would often appear early and let a large group of Blue Cloud Pavilion newcomers surround him. They would talk loudly, as if they were afraid that they wouldn't be the focus of the audience. But this time, as soon as Meng Tong appeared, he didn't need to say anything at all. Naturally, he had already attracted the attention of everyone present. Damn! What's wrong with this guy? Why is his hair all dyed white? Xiao Hongkai looked at Meng Tong blankly. He couldn't help but rub his eyes. This hair doesn't seem to be dyed. It should be natural white. It can't be the legendary white hair overnight, right? Xiao Ran also had a face of disbelief. Lin Yi shook his head slightly and said, the hair is not the main point. Didn't you guys notice that his entire temperament has changed? Only then did Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai realize what Lin Yi was talking about. Even the bitter senior was surprised. Junior Lin's right, Meng Tong used to give people the impression that he was a complete idiot, without any strength or depth. But now that I look at him, his entire person is different. He is so strange and twisted like a wounded beast. If you provoke him a little, he will immediately come back for revenge. Lin Yi's expression was indifferent. But in his heart, he thought, what kind of strange pill is this meridian heart-shattering pill? In just a short 10 days, it actually made Meng Tong completely change into a different person. If it was just a simple rebirth of strength, it would be fine. After all, the foundation-building pill could have the same effect. But this meridian heart-shattering pill, it actually made a person's temperament change. It was simply incredible. In the past 10 days, the fourth immortal's cave at the foot of the mountain continuously emitted horrifying howls. Meng Tong was almost suffering inhuman torture at every moment, especially during the period between midnight and noon. The miserable howls were so heart-wrenching that it made one's scalp go numb. It was no wonder that in just a short 10 days, his entire person would be twisted into such a strange and evil person. Under the shocked gazes of everyone, Meng Tong slowly walked in front of Lin Yi. His eyes were full of ferocious blood vessels. He laughed coldly and said, I've waited for this day. Lin Yi, everything I have now is thanks to you. Are you ready to die? After saying that, Meng Tong did not care about Lin Yi's reaction. He turned around and walked to the side. It seemed that in his eyes, Lin Yi was already a dead man. There was no need to pay attention to him anymore. Interesting. Lin Yi smiled playfully. Before this, Meng Tong had always called him pretentious leader and never called him by his full name. Although this was only a very subtle difference, in the eyes of a person like Lin Yi, it was enough to explain the problem. Meng Tong had never called Lin Yi by his full name before. In the end, it was a kind of psychological distortion. At least it showed that he could not face Lin Yi's existence. He could only use these mocking and insulting words to get his psychological balance. At that time, no matter how strong Meng Tong was or how much confidence he had, he was actually just a wolf in sheep's clothing. But now, judging from his tone, Meng Tong was not as arrogant as before. However, it was the first time that Lin Yi felt threatened by him. If he was not careful, it could be a fatal threat. Junior brother Lin, there must be something wrong when something is out of the ordinary. Even if you are facing a defeated opponent like Meng Tong, you must not let your guard down. Senior brother Ku reminded him. He did not know about the meridian heart-shattering pill, but he could see that Meng Tong's strength had skyrocketed. It was no longer the same as before. Senior brother Ku, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Lin Yi nodded. A moment later, the pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion, Hu Yunfeng, went on stage and announced to all the newcomers, in the pugilistic world, it is inevitable to bump into each other. Everyone has an enemy, and there will definitely be friction between you newcomers. According to the rules of the cultivation world, strength is always the most important. Our Welcome Pavilion is naturally no exception. So today's last round of the newcomer assessment is specially prepared for all of you to adjust to your conflicts. The newcomers started discussing when they heard this. Even if the newcomer assessment was ignored, the welcome pavilion was usually free to arrange battles as long as there was a witness present and they reported it to their respective senior brothers. There was no need to specially set up a so-called newcomer assessment for this, right? Obviously, the battle round that Hu Yunfeng mentioned was not as simple as everyone thought it was. This was a round that could have a decisive effect on the entire assessment series. The success or failure of this round would directly determine whether all the previous efforts would be in vain, or if they could catch up and successfully counterattack. Chapter 39-35. The moment Hu Yunfeng said that, there was an uproar as everyone looked at each other. The winner could snatch all the points of the loser. This rule was more than cruel. The person who came up with this rule was simply a devil. To the rookies these days, points were their lifeline. It directly determined their future. Snatching their points was no different from snatching their lives. They would definitely fight to the death with you. However, this cruel rule made the eyes of some rookies light up. This was the best opportunity to make a comeback. At least this rule suited Meng Tong's taste. It just so happened that he had consumed the Meridian Heart-Shattering pill. His strength had increased greatly, so he had the confidence to fight against Lin Yi. As Meng Tong was secretly calculating, Hu Yunfeng's following words made his eyelids twitch. Of course, it's not that you have to fight in this round. If any rookie is challenged, they can choose to refuse. However, the price is to hand over 50 points to the opponent. It's fair and reasonable. 50 points was an astronomical figure to other rookies. However, for a freak like Lin Yi who could easily obtain full points, it was a drop in the bucket. Not to mention 50 points, even 100 points was nothing to him. However, this way, for Meng Tong, who was bent on stepping on Lin Yi's corpse to advance, it was not good news. What if Lin Yi sensed that something was amiss and took the initiative to admit defeat? Although Lin Yi had always been posturing, at his level of strength, his intuition towards danger was definitely very sharp. It was unlikely that he would continue to throw his life away despite knowing that he would die. Even if Meng Tong's personality had changed drastically, he was still as arrogant and confident as ever. I hope this fellow can continue posturing. Otherwise, how can I live up to the heart-shattering pain I've endured all these days? Meng Tong looked coldly at Lin Yi. Moments later, the rules were all explained. The rookies of the three pavilions began their battles. And before everyone began their final battle, the first thing to do was to draw lots. This segment was too crucial and fatal for the rookies, so it was necessary to ensure fairness. Drawing lots was to let the rookies decide the order of the challenges. After all, according to the rules, every rookie only had one chance to challenge and one chance to be challenged. If they did not use such a method to determine the order, it would be easy for many people to rush to challenge the same person. Everyone knew that one had to pick on the weakest persimmon. The purpose of drawing lots was to solve this problem. Whoever drew a bigger number would have the right to issue a challenge first. This time, the first person to issue a challenge to Blue Cloud Pavilion turned out to be Meng Tong. He did not know if Meng Juiguang had purposely gone easy on him. Seeing the white-haired Meng Tong slowly walk up the stage with an unfamiliar and powerful aura, the rookies could not help but shrink their necks. Previously, Meng Tong was no longer a weakling. Now, he was so inexplicably powerful that it made people shudder. If anyone were to be called out by him, their legs would really tremble and they would have a heart attack. Fortunately, Meng Tong had already determined his target. He pointed at Lin Yi, who was below the stage, and hooked his finger. You know who I'm talking about. Come on up if you're not afraid of death. Lin Yi smiled nonchalantly and didn't say anything else as he walked up the stage with a relaxed expression on his face. Not admitting defeat. Now kneel before me. You can still keep your worthless life. Meng Tong looked at him and raised his eyebrows. At the same time, he unreservedly revealed his aura. The crowd below the stage turned pale with fright. Even Murongzhen, an expert at the peak of the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm, could not help but change her expression. She could tell from Meng Tong's aura that Meng Tong's strength had completely surpassed hers. He should be between the peak of the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm and the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. It was even possible that he had the strength of the strongest person below the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Admit defeat. Lin Yi shrugged and smiled faintly. Why would I admit defeat? You can't be thinking that you can defeat me with that little strength of yours, right? Pretentious. Since you don't want to admit defeat, that's for the best. I'll finish you off today and end all troubles. Meng Tong scoffed. Although the strength that Lin Yi had displayed was frighteningly powerful, with Meng Tong's current confidence, he did not care about his opponent at all. Then let's fight and see. Lin Yi shook his head calmly. Meng Tong did not waste any more words. Suddenly, a terrifying force exploded from beneath his feet. He stomped on the rock ring and shot towards his opponent like an arrow. Below the arena, Meng Juiguang was extremely gratified when he saw this, whereas, senior brother Ku Bai, Xiao Ran, and Qiao Hongkai frowned in their hearts. Exactly what sort of strange fortuitous encounter did this fellow Meng Tong obtain? His strength was actually able to rise explosively to such an extent in a short period of time. At that very moment, Meng Tong's powerful aura was too much for the audience to handle. Some of the weaker newcomers unknowingly took a few steps back, not daring to look at him directly. However, Lin Yi did not care at all. Facing Meng Tong, who was charging at him, he casually extended his palm and gently swatted him as if he was swatting a fly. Then, Meng Tong was slapped to the ground and could not get up for a long time. Ha! Everyone was dumbfounded. The powerful Meng Tong was slapped to the ground just like that. This scene was unexpected. In the past few months in the Welcome Pavilion, Lin Yi's strength had been deeply rooted in everyone's hearts. No one would foolishly look down on him anymore. But at the same time, they had witnessed Meng Tong's experience over the past few days and his current condition. Today, Meng Tong could be said to have been reborn. Even when Murongzhen faced him, he couldn't help but shudder. How could such a person be a weakling? To everyone, even if Meng Tong's strength wasn't above Lin Yi's, it was definitely on par with him. It was impossible for him to be much weaker. They did not expect that the first fight would be like this. Indeed, Meng Tong had displayed unprecedented strength, and people couldn't help but be afraid of him. They even began to imagine that Lin Yi was finally going to die this time. However, all of this was nothing in front of Lin Yi. The powerful Meng Tong in their eyes was like a fly. He was easily slapped to the ground. This scene shocked everyone. They were speechless for a long time. Finally, Meng Tong slowly crawled up from the ground. He spat a mouthful of bloody saliva at Lin Yi's feet and cursed. Then, he swept his leg at Lin Yi. Chapter 39-36. Everyone was dumbfounded. The first time could be attributed to luck or Meng Tong's underestimation of his opponent. But the second time, what was this? Wah ya 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 ya. Meng Tong was stunned by the slap himself. He shook his head in disbelief and climbed up from the ground again. His bloodshot eyes were now bloodshot. The side effect of the Meridian heart-shattering pill was not only to make people suffer from the pain of having their hearts broken at noon and midnight, but those with weak willpower would also be tortured to the point of losing their minds and even become a complete lunatic. Meng Tong had never been a person with strong willpower. Otherwise, he wouldn't have undergone such a drastic change in temperament in just 10 days and become such a strange person. His eyes were bloodshot. It was a sign that he had completely lost his mind and was about to go berserk. Seeing that Meng Tong was once again charging at him aggressively, Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. He curled his lips and said, "Don't eat unclean things. You've really set a good example for everyone." Then, without waiting for his opponent to attack, he raised his hand and slapped Meng Tong to the ground. Watching this scene, the audience was silent. They had been shocked to the point of numbness. At this moment, there was only one sound left, Meng Tong's heavy breathing. "Die for me." Meng Tong was like a beast. His limbs were on the ground and he was panting heavily. He gritted his teeth and said word by word. Along with his voice, the hard stone slabs under his feet cracked. It felt as if they couldn't support Meng Tong's weight at all. The crazy and monstrous aura that gathered on his body made everyone's eyelids twitch. Did this guy really lose his mind and go berserk? However, Lin Yi turned a blind eye to this. He was still as calm as the clouds and the wind, looking at Meng Tong indifferently, watching this fellow's every move. From the first day he arrived at Heaven's Stage Island, he had never regarded Meng Tong as his opponent. He wasn't before, and he still wasn't even after Meng Tong took the Meridian heart-shattering pill. Although Meng Tong was gradually losing his mind, he could still detect a trace of deeply hidden contempt from Lin Yi's indifferent expression. Perhaps this was not intentional on Lin Yi's part, but a natural contempt of the strong towards the weak. The greatest contempt was not all kinds of contempt and mockery, but just plain disregard. Ha 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 ha. Meng Tong suddenly laughed hysterically. He stared at Lin Yi with a ferocious face and shouted, "How dare you look down on me? How dare you look down on me? Do you know how to write the word death, pretentious old man? Of course, I went to school properly. Don't you know that? Do you need me to teach you, but the price may be a little high." Lin Yi teased, not putting the other party in his eyes at all. "You're courting death." Meng Tong suddenly exploded with anger. He exerted force with his 1,000 legs, and the broken stone slabs under his feet instantly exploded, splashing onto the ground. The people below the stage were in a mess, and they couldn't dodge in time. "Ha, so fierce, but unfortunately." Lin Yi's eyes narrowed, and his whole body suddenly condensed a blazing fist intent that was close to materialization. He blasted out the 24 styles of frenzied fist, accompanied by an indifferent smile. "It's far from enough to deal with me." Boom! There was a loud bang, and in the sky full of dust, a figure was sent flying like a cannonball, and fell to the ground several tens of feet away. It was unknown whether the figure was dead or alive. It was Meng Tong, who was beaten beyond recognition. When the dust slowly settled, everyone, including Meng Juiguang, could not help but gasp when they saw the scene in front of them. The Clear Cloud Pavilion's new disciple battle stage, which had experienced countless battles, had been perfected to this day, but at this moment, it was destroyed beyond recognition. Just one move of the 24 styles of the Mad Flame Fist had turned half of the battle stage into rubble. The only place that was left intact was the area under Lin Yi's feet. Everyone was really shocked by this scene. The power of one punch was so great. One had to know that the stage was protected by a special protective array, and its defense was much stronger than other places. It was extremely difficult for a normal newcomer to leave a mark on the stage, not to mention destroying it. This was the first time that a newcomer had destroyed the stage. Today's scene could already be recorded in the history of Welcome Pavilion. Challenge me. You're just taking a crooked path. Where does your confidence come from? Lin Yi did not look at the reckless Meng Tong, but coldly glanced at Meng Juiguang, who was below the stage. Under his gaze, Meng Juiguang, the senior disciple in charge, was actually oppressed by a mere newcomer to the point that his scalp went numb, and he did not dare to look him in the eye. Today, Meng Jueguang was already a mid-stage foundation establishment expert, but the pressure that Lin Yi brought him at this moment made him have the urge to break into a run. Just thinking about it made people feel incredulous. Could it be that this guy is already a mid-stage foundation establishment expert? If that's the case, then it makes sense that Meng Tong is not his opponent. But, how is this possible? Looking at Lin Yi walking down the stage so casually, Meng Jueguang was shocked by this thought that popped up in his mind. No matter how he thought about it, Lin Yi was just a newcomer reaching the mid-stage of foundation establishment. This was too exaggerated. One had to know that even the legendary miracle Dr. Zhang Liju didn't reach such a frightening level back in the day. Not to mention the newcomers in the Clear Cloud Pavilion. Even looking at all the newcomers in the Welcoming Pavilion, there were only 2 who could reach the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment. One was Murong Jin, who joined midway, and the other was Meng Tong, who was beaten to a pulp by Lin Yi. Murong Jin, needless to say, was already at the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment before he came to the 3 great pavilions. As for Meng Tong, if there wasn't a monster like Lin Yi to compare, he could be considered a legendary newcomer in Welcome Pavilion. After all, in just a few short months, he went from Sky Full Cycle all the way to the peak of the early stage of foundation establishment. If he didn't use the Meridian Heart-Shattering Pill, this speed was already frightening enough. 99% of the newcomers couldn't even catch up. Unfortunately, his opponent was Lin Yi. As the saying goes, if there was a Yu, why would there be a Liang? Plus, Meng Tong didn't seem to be at Zhou Yu's level. Even Meng Tong and Murong Jin, 2 early-stage foundation establishment masters, were overshadowed in front of Lin Yi. As for the other newcomers, naturally, they were like floating clouds. All of a sudden, everyone looked at Lin Yi with deep respect in their eyes. Chapter 39-37. Not to mention the others, even Meng Jueguang himself felt a little guilty when facing Lin Yi, let alone these newcomers who were merely at the heaven stage great perfection. Murong Jin looked at Lin Yi with a hint of splendor in his eyes, but there was also a hint of deep jealousy. Why did you go against Lin Yi, and Lin Yi still protected you? And this beauty took the initiative to throw herself into his arms, and Lin Yi was still not interested. Shengguan Laner, just you wait, I will definitely make Lin Yi kneel before me. I will join hands with him and make you wish you were dead. Junior brother Lin, this time, you have completely locked in the first place. Congratulations, senior brother Ku Bai said sincerely for Lin Yi. According to the rules, the winner would get all of the losers' points. Lin Yi had 280 points to begin with, and with Meng Tong's 180, he had a total of 461 points. It was a shocking result. Not to mention the other newcomers in Blue Cloud Pavilion, even if all of their points were added together, they might not be as many as Lin Yi. They were not on the same level at all. Points are secondary, but I was a little careless this time. I made a mistake, Lin Yi said regretfully as he looked at Meng Tong from afar. According to his original plan, he was going to directly kill Meng Tong this time to avoid any future troubles. After all, the current Meng Tong was a completely different person from the original Meng Tong. He could ignore the previous idiot Meng Tong, but now he had to be on guard against this one. In Lin Yi's expectations, the 24 forms of Frenzy Fist was already enough to instantly kill a peak early-stage foundation establishment expert. However, Meng Tong had eaten the Meridian Heart-Shattering Pill, so he was somewhat different from a peak early-stage foundation establishment expert who advanced normally. It was hard to say whether he could kill him this time. Unfortunately, the battle was already over, and it was too late for Lin Yi to add another blow. If he had known earlier, he would have spared no effort and directly used the 23rd style of the Frenzy 8 trigrams poem. In my opinion. Junior brother Lin, you don't have to be disappointed. He's in such a miserable state. Whether or not Meng Tong can come back to life is still unknown. It's up to the will of the heavens. The bitter senior brother consoled. Yes, that's all we can do for now. Lin Yi nodded. In any case, his strength was enough to suppress his opponent. Even Meng Juiguang couldn't possibly be his opponent. Even if Meng Tong was a little strange, there was no need to be too afraid. At this moment, everyone else was still shocked by the battle between Lin Yi and Meng Tong. They were so shocked that they couldn't recover for a long time. From the first day, there had been constant friction between Lin Yi and Meng Tong. The scene of Lin Yi defeating Meng Tong in one move was still fresh in the minds of the newcomers. After that, Meng Tong had been scheming to get back at him, but he could only watch the gap between them grow bigger and bigger. It even evolved to the point that even a subordinate of Lin Yi like Qiao Hongkai could directly suppress him. Now that he had finally consumed the heart-shattering pill, he thought that he could make a comeback. However, he never expected that he would end up in such an awkward situation. Even though it was unknown if Meng Tong was dead or alive, the rookies could not help but feel their hearts break for him. After this battle, as the arena had been destroyed by Lin Yi, the Blue Cloud Pavilion rookies could only move elsewhere. They found an empty space and continued the final battle between the rookies. With the battle between Lin Yi and Meng Tong before them, the other battles between the Blue Cloud Pavilion rookies clearly didn't have such a scalp-tingling feeling. Although it could be said that they were betting their lives, everyone fought with all their might. There were many battles to the death that resulted in both sides being heavily injured. The scene could be said to be intense, but due to the limitations of their strength, that was all they could do. What was worth mentioning was that Lin Yi had appeared once again and challenged Murongjin. Previously, it was Meng Tong who had taken the initiative to challenge him. As for Lin Yi, he still had one more chance to challenge someone else. Lin Yi did this not only for his own group, but also for Shanghai Laner. If Murongjin chose to accept the challenge, Lin Yi could take the opportunity to eliminate her completely. After experiencing the incident at Half Moon Lake, his impression of Murongjin was extremely bad. If he really had the opportunity, he would not show mercy to the fairer sex. Beating her to death was the way to go. Unfortunately, Murongjin chose to admit defeat very sensibly. 50 points were not important to her. Furthermore, Lin Yi's strength was already deeply rooted in everyone's hearts. For a woman like her who was good at forbearance, there was no way she would give Lin Yi the opportunity to take advantage of her. After that, Murongjin followed up with an eye for an eye. She challenged Xiao Ran by name. Even though she was not Lin Yi's opponent right now, she could still get back at him by defeating his lackey. Lin Yi could do nothing about this. It was true that he was powerful, but he could not replace Xiao Ran. Moreover, Xiao Ran was clearly not Murongjin's opponent at the early stage of the foundational realm. Without a choice, Xiao Ran could only follow Murongjin's example. He chose to hand over 50 points and admit defeat. The all-important final round of the newcomer assessment had finally come to an end. The final result was obvious. Lin Yi won first place without any suspense, Qiao Hongkai was second, and Li Jingming was third. According to the news announced by the pavilion leader, Hu Yunfeng, the points of this newcomer assessment were not only related to the treatment and status one would receive after entering the 3 pavilions in the future, but the winner would also receive a great reward. The top 3 from each of the 3 pavilions would receive a medicinal pill as a reward. They could choose between the foundation building pill and the foundation barrier breaking pill. Lin Yi and the other 2 were already experts at the early stage of the foundational realm. Without a doubt, they all chose the foundation barrier-breaking pill. As soon as the medicinal pill was handed to him, Lin Yi immediately gave it to Xiao Ran. After all, Lin Yi had just broken through to the middle stage of the foundational realm with 3 foundation-building pills and a foundation barrier-breaking pill. He would not need this medicinal pill for the time being. Even if he did need it, he could refine it himself. This foundation barrier-breaking pill was even more important to Xiao Ran. With his strength and talent in cultivation, he might be able to surprise Lin Yi someday and become an expert at the peak of the early stage of the foundational realm. After several months and 6 rounds, the highly anticipated newcomer assessment finally came to an end. The final result could be said to be some happy and some sad. Looking at the Blue Cloud Pavilion's newcomers, Lin Yi's group was undoubtedly the biggest winner who had the last laugh. After the newcomer assessment, the newcomer pavilion's newcomers could finally relax. They could finally relax after such a long time. Those who needed to rest rested and those who needed to cultivate cultivated. Everyone had their own plans. Chapter 39-38. During this time, there was a piece of news that caught Lin Yi's attention. It came from Li Jingming, and it was about Meng Tong. After the newcomer assessment ended, Meng Jueguang searched for many healing medicines, wanting to save Meng Tong. However, none of them were effective. Some of the medicines even had the opposite effect, almost causing Meng Tong to die on the spot. However, just as Meng Jueguang was helpless and could only watch Meng Tong die, Meng Tong, after suffering in endless pain for a few days, relied on his own will to survive, and turned back from the edge of death. Now, Meng Tong's injuries had gradually stabilized. Although it was not possible to recover in a short period of time, it was only a matter of time. He really is an unkillable cockroach. After reading the report, Lin Yi could not help but frown. He had a bad feeling. After this incident, Meng Tong, who was originally a small character, seemed to gradually grow into a big threat. It was like opening Pandora's box. The Meridian Heartbreaker pill seemed to have created another Meng Tong, a more troublesome Meng Tong. In time, this guy might grow into a big character, and it would be difficult to deal with him. However, since things had come to this, Lin Yi did not have any good ideas to kill this threat in the bud. He had the strength, but he did not have the opportunity to make a move. This made Lin Yi experience the helplessness of Meng Jueguang and the others. He could not order Li Jingming to secretly assassinate Meng Tong. Regardless of whether Li Jingming was willing or not, even if he really wanted to do it, it would be difficult to do it under the eyes of Meng Jueguang. If he showed any flaws, he would be finished. Other than this report, after cultivating for a few days, when his realm was almost stable, Lin Yi finally decided to go to the market. During the month he was in the back mountain, he collected a lot of treasures. Along the way, he also killed some high-level spirit beasts that wanted to kill him. The corpses of spirit beasts were different from treasures like spirit medicines. Many things needed to be processed by professionals before they could be useful. Therefore, it was useless for Lin Yi to keep them on him. It was better to trade them in the market. Now, Lin Yi needed to start preparing for his next breakthrough. However, after wandering around the back mountain for a month, he still could not find the heart-devouring exquisite grass. This result made Lin Yi feel depressed, but it also made him realize that it wasn't practical for him to search for something as rare as the heart-devourer grass on his own. After all, there was a limit to how much he could search for it on his own. It wasn't an easy task to search for it in the vast back mountains by himself. Hence, he was prepared to make another trip to the Hong Chamber of Commerce this time. If Hong Zhong was willing to help him purchase it, with his connections and influence as a big shot in the Chamber of Commerce, even if he wasn't 100% confident, it was still better than Lin Yi doing it himself. Other than that, for the past 2 months, the Southern Sky Gate and Yuzha had stopped pursuing Second Lin for some reason. Therefore, there was not much risk for Lin Yi to go to the market this time. After making up his mind, Second Lin, who had been silent for a long time, returned to the streets outside the market. His goal was clear. He was going to find Qin Heihu, who specialized in the spirit beast business. Although Lin Yi had only met Qin Heihu once, he had a good impression of him. This wasn't to say that Qin Heihu was a good person. In fact, no one who could make it big in a place like the market was a good person. It was just that this Qin Heihu was a smart person who knew when to advance and when to retreat, and he was generous as well. Working with someone like this was more to Lin Yi's taste. Yo, Lin brothers, long time no see. Although they had only met once, Qin Heihu still recognized Lin Yi at first glance. He greeted him with a smile. Lin Yi was slightly taken aback, then he responded with a smile, "Brother Qin Heihu, how have you been?" Qin Heihu looked at the bag behind Lin Yi and immediately nodded in understanding. "Lin brothers, you have to take care of my business again. Every time I see you, there are good things. You are a rare distinguished guest, a kind guest." Lin Yi was not ambiguous and said directly, "This bag is filled with the corpses of some spirit beasts. Brother Qin, take a look and give me an estimate." "Okay, Lin brothers, don't worry. You know me. The price will definitely satisfy you." Qin Heihu immediately called his manservant and began to get busy. However, he himself pulled Lin Yi aside and whispered, "Lin brothers, someone has been looking for you in the market a while ago. It seems that their background is not small. You have to be careful." Lin Yi nodded and said, "Thank you for the reminder, I am very grateful." "Hey, what are you thanking me for? Do you have to be grateful for a reminder between friends? You are treating me like an outsider." Qin Heihu laughed heartily and said, "Recently, those people have been coming less often, but sometimes they still come out to patrol. Lin brothers, as long as you pay a little attention, it should not be a big problem. And I know what to do." "Thank you, Brother Qin." Lin Yi responded. Although he knew about this a long time ago, he still had to appreciate the other party's kindness. Otherwise, if it was someone more opportunistic, not to mention reminding him, he would probably secretly find someone to inform the Southern Sky Gate and Yuzha. After all, no matter what, there must be a great reward for providing information. Who would go against a spiritual jade these days? Qin Heihu waved his hand indifferently, and then he said, "Oh, right, there's another matter. That fellow, the Tattered King, seems to be looking for you as well. I'm just telling Brother Lin about this. Actually, it's right for you to ignore this fellow who only knows how to boast but can't produce any results." Lin Yi couldn't help sweating when he heard this. It had been a few months since he promised to go to the Blue Cloud Pavilion to look for the Raggedy King to forge weapons. Now that it had been a few months, he had completely forgotten about the matter. Speaking of which, he felt a little sorry for the Raggedy King. Although Lin Yi was really busy during this period, he had to prepare for the newcomer assessment and prepare to refine pills to improve his strength. Moreover, when he told the Raggedy King that he would look for him after a while, a few months had passed in the blink of an eye. During this period of time, he had given the Raggedy King the cold shoulder. "This is my mistake. In a few days, I will go to the Blue Cloud Pavilion to look for him." Lin Yi replied. Chapter 39-39. While they were talking, several manservants had finished counting the things brought by Lin Yi. After making a list, Qin Heihu quickly gave Lin Yi a fair price of 800 spiritual jade. Lin Yi didn't have any objections to this and immediately nodded in agreement. However, what surprised him was that Qin Heihu could actually swipe a spirit jade card here. Looking at the outer and middle streets of the market, he was the only one who could do this. Spiritual jade card was a rare high-end item. Even a master at the peak of the late stage of the foundation establishment realm like Nan Tianyong couldn't get it, which showed how rare it was. As for the merchants, there were even fewer who had the qualification to swipe the spiritual jade card. On the North Island, except for the giants of the business alliance like the Hong Chamber of Commerce, ordinary merchants didn't have this qualification. From this, it could be seen that Chen Heihu was far from as simple as he looked. His connections were wild enough, and his background must be strong enough. If one thought that he was just an ordinary small merchant in the outer street and looked down on him, he might suffer a big loss. Lin Yi suddenly changed his mind and said, "Brother Chen Heihu, besides the business of spiritual beasts, do you also dabble in spiritual medicine?" Chen Heihu was slightly stunned and then replied, "Of course, spiritual beasts and spiritual medicine are not separated. However, my focus has always been on the spiritual beasts and I don't pay much attention to the spiritual medicine." "Lin brothers, why do you ask this?" "I've been looking for some elixirs recently, but they're quite rare. It's hard to buy them normally, and I don't come to the market often, so I wanted to see if you could help me," Lin Yi said. He originally planned to ask Hong Zhong to search for the heart-devouring grass, but now after seeing Chen Heihu's ability, he couldn't help but change his mind. With this guy's connections, he might be able to get the heart-devouring grass. Well, Chen Heihu habitually stroked his beard and nodded. "Okay, Lin brothers, write down the spiritual medicine you need. I'll keep an eye on it for you. If I find it, I'll take it for you. How about that?" "I can't thank you enough. We can discuss the price. I won't let you lose out." Lin Yi's heart leapt with joy. Immediately after, he wrote down a list of spiritual medicines on a piece of paper. Other than the heart-devouring exquisite grass, there were also a few other rare spiritual medicines. Naturally, this was to fool others. Chen Heihu roughly glanced at it. There was some curiosity in his eyes, but he tactfully did not ask any questions. He directly said, "Brother Lin, don't worry. Although these elixirs are indeed difficult to find, with my connections, it shouldn't be a big problem. Just wait for the good news." The tone of these words wasn't small, but when it came to Chen Heihu, it didn't seem to be the slightest bit out of place. It was as if he was born with such remarkable abilities. Even Lin Yi couldn't help but sigh to himself. This fellow was an extraordinary person. After he was done, Lin Yi walked out of Chen Heihu's shop and headed towards the inner street. Fishing required a wide net. Even if he thought highly of Chen Heihu, he couldn't put all his hopes on one person. He still had to make a trip to the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Anyway, the foundation establishment pill was useful throughout the foundation establishment realm. Hence, the heart-devouring exquisite grass was beneficial to Lin Yi. He didn't have to worry about not being able to digest it. On the way to the inner street, Lin Yi didn't forget to pay attention to the small shops in the outer street and the middle street. These places rarely had any high-end goods. However, if he paid attention, he might have a chance to pick up some leftover goods. Some people who were knowledgeable and had outstanding eyesight even relied on picking up leftover goods for a living. For example, Yuzhe had done this kind of business in the past. Although Lin Yi wasn't like Yuzhe who stayed in the library for 3 years and knew all kinds of rare treasures, he still had a ghostly thing on him. No matter how many ancient books Yuzhe read, in terms of knowledge, even 10 of them couldn't compare to one ghostly thing. There were so many shops in the market. If he really paid attention, he would always be able to pick up some leftover goods. As expected, Lin Yi very quickly discovered an unexpected surprise in an inconspicuous roadside stall. It was a pot of blue grass. Its name was Blue Glow Grass. It was considered a relatively common spiritual medicine. However, what Lin Yi was really interested in was not this pot of blue glow grass, but the pile of black mud in the pot that no one would pay attention to. If it wasn't for the ghostly thing's reminder, Lin Yi wouldn't have noticed it. Compared to the ordinary blue glow grass, the origin of this pile of black mud was quite extraordinary. Its name was Pure Land. According to the ghostly thing, this kind of soil only appeared in ancient times. It was a kind of magical soil that could nurture life and spirituality. Due to the changes in the environment, Pure Land gradually became a legend after ancient times. Nowadays, no matter how much money one spent, one might not be able to find it. What made Lin Yi excited was that if Pure Land was used in forging weapons, it could increase the spirituality of weapons. The function of this spirituality could only be understood and not explained. It would not increase the attack power, nor would it increase other special abilities. There might not be any obvious visual effect in a short period of time, but the spirituality of weapons was a mysterious thing. After a long time, it would slowly show its magic. A weapon with spirituality and a weapon without spirituality were on two completely different levels. Without spirituality, it would forever be a dead object. Once it developed spirituality, it meant that there were infinite possibilities. Even the legendary growth weapons were no longer out of reach. First, there was the 10,000-year tree crystal, and then there was the ancient Pure Land. As such, Lin Yi was even more interested in the meeting with the King of Junk. Just thinking about how the steel staff would be upgraded was enough to make him look forward to it. However, the most important thing now was to buy the Pure Land. "Boss, how much is this pot of blue glow grass?" Lin Yi asked without batting an eyelid. When it came to picking up scraps, even if it was to stand out and make a fortune, even though he knew that the ancient Pure Land was a treasure that could only be found by luck, he definitely couldn't show any strange expression on his face. This sort of thing happened all the time in the market, and almost every stall owner was extremely sensitive to it. If Lin Yi were to reveal even the slightest flaw, it'd cause a lot of trouble. The stall owner looked up and down at Lin Yi. He vaguely felt that this person was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember him clearly. After all, in the past 2 months, the Southern Heaven Gate and Yusha had gradually quieted down. Even if he had seen Lin Yi's portrait before, his impression of him was already blurred. 7 pieces of spiritual jade. The stall owner was too lazy to think any further. He immediately called out the price. "You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.